Chapter 161. I'm sorry. I got the wrong person. Chapter 161. I'm sorry. I got the wrong person. Translator, Godbrandy Editor, Kurisu. After entering the electronic shopping center, Song Shuhang bought a mobile phone and a SIM card for Senior White. Afterward, they bought a computer too. The entire process was very quick and smooth. The prices of the mobile phone and the computer were so low that Song Shuhang was left dumbfounded. He didn't even need to haggle over the price. The shop owner had decided to sell them the goods at a price that was close to the buying price. In addition, he gave them both a membership and VIP card. Of course, they could buy things at such a low price only because Senior White had followed behind Song Shuhang with a smile plastered on his face. Senior White didn't need to say or do anything. Him standing there was more than enough to make the shop owner drastically decrease the price. The latter even seemed to wish to gift them with the merchandise for free despite the loss it had caused. This was a wretched era where only looks matter. Song Shuhang pondered a bit and decided to take another stroll in the shopping center with Senior White. Afterwards, he bought 2 tablets, his long-awaited single-lens reflex camera, and a small projector. With Senior White by his side, he bought everything at a discounted price. It was simply awesome. The same thing would happen in games if you were to increase your charm by 10 points, all the NPCs would suddenly start selling you items at a discounted rate. What a wondrous skill. Sir, once you're done shopping, you should preserve the receipt of the payment. After spending 10,000 renminbi, you will have the right to participate in a lottery just outside the electronic shopping center, and the prizes aren't half bad. The owner of the shop where they had bought the camera warmly reminded. Once every few months, the electronic shopping center would hold an event similar to a lottery. It was to keep the business flourishing. Of course, most of these prizes were just consolation prizes. Thank you, Song Shuhang replied with a smile. Then, he looked at his hands. A notebook, 2 tablets, a single-lens reflex camera, an external hard drive, a small projector. He had a lot of things with him. Not good. He had bought too many things on the spur of the moment. And now, both his hands were occupied by the things he had purchased. If Senior White were to suddenly fall on the ground, he wouldn't have the chance to stop him. While thinking, he shot a glance at Senior White. Senior White was very happy right now. He was completely engrossed in the mobile phone that Song Shuhang had bought for him. For the time being, it was unlikely that he would get distracted and lose himself in thought. Senior White seemed to have noticed his gaze. Therefore, he raised his head and asked, "Is everything all right? Do you want to take the bus to go back? This time, I'll remember to restrain my aura." "Oh, it doesn't matter. For some reason, I really want to take a walk. Let's take a different road," Song Shuhang said firmly. No matter what, he didn't want to get on the bus with Senior White again. Fine. Senior White was a good-natured person, and also very easy to get along with. Moreover, he was someone that would show consideration for the younger generation. Northern River's loose cultivator's description was on the spot. Just after exiting the electronic shopping center, they arrived at the place where the lottery was being drawn. Song Shuhang showed them the receipt. After adding together all the things they had bought, the money spent amounted to more than 20,000 renminbi. Therefore, they could draw the lottery twice. "Please, draw your lottery from here," the boy in charge smiled at Song Shuhang. The lottery was quite old-fashioned. They were using scratch cards. Senior White was looking at Song Shuhang with a curious expression. "Behold! I have the legendary character on my hand. Since little, I have been considered an expert at drawing lotteries." Song Shuhang blew some air on his palms and went toward the lottery box. Afterwards, he picked up a scratch card and started to scratch at it. 1. The boy came closer to take a look. Afterwards, he said with a smile, "Congratulations, you won a consolation prize." Then, he passed a hand-sized teddy bear to Song Shuhang. "Consolation prize tilde." Song Shuhang took the small stuffed animal and said with a bitter smile, "Hee hee. My luck wasn't too good today. Senior White, do you want to give a try? Sure. Senior White happily smiled. He also blew some air on his palms like Song Shuhang and went toward the box. He picked a scratch card and started to scratch at it. The boy came closer to take a look once again. At this time, he immediately shouted, "Congratulations! You've won the special prize. It's a new generation notebook worth 10,000 renminbi. Brother, your luck is just too good." Thanks. Senior White took the notebook and smiled at the boy. This smile was the most beautiful smile of the world. The boy was immediately stunned. You're welcome, you're welcome." He was standing in place and laughing foolishly. He kept waving his hand in a daze, and didn't stop even when they've long disappeared. After a while, F*CK, wasn't that a male? The boy finally came to his senses. He quickly placed a hand on his chest. His heart was beating very fast. Jesus, do I swing that way? ****. Inside the 9 Provinces #1 group. True Monarch Yellow Mountain suddenly wrote in the group, "Little friend Song Shuhang, are you there?" Shuhang was still outside. Therefore, he didn't reply. After a long time, Cave Lord Snow Wolf replied, "It seems he has gone out with Senior White." Speaking of which, True Monarch White came out of secluded meditation a while ago. That strange luck should start to take effect, right? True Monarch Yellow Mountain nodded and said, "At this time, it should have already started to take effect." Is that so? So lucky! Cave Lord Snow Wolf said, both envious and fearful. Yeah, lucky. True Monarch Yellow Mountain also sighed with emotion. So, did any of you told Shuhang to pay attention to Senior White's mysterious luck? Cave Lord Snow Wolf answered surprised, "What? True Monarch, you didn't remind him? Who was the one that tricked him into accepting this task? Why should I be the one to remind him?" True Monarch Yellow Mountain replied with a question of his own, somewhat baffled. But wasn't it the founder of the group who issued the task? Cave Lord Snow Wolf said. True Monarch Yellow Mountain. After a while, "I'll give him a call," True Monarch Yellow Mountain said. "Who has his phone number? I forgot to save it last time." Scholar Drunken Moon, me, I just gave him a phone recharge. I'll send it to you. *****. On another side. On the way back, Song Shuhang had decided to choose a deserted road. He was leading the way, and Senior White was obediently following on his right side while playing with the mobile phone. Song Shuhang had his hands full with all the things they had bought. Luckily for him, he was quite strong right now. Therefore, they weren't heavy to carry. Along the way, he kept an eye on Senior White, afraid that the latter would suddenly get distracted. "Ha ha! Why do you keep looking at me?" "I have already restrained my aura," Senior White said with a smile. He felt a bit uncomfortable with Song Shuhang staring at him. "It's nothing. I was just afraid that you would get distracted," Song Shuhang said honestly. "This is unlikely to happen. Right now, I'm completely absorbed in the various features of this mobile phone. Therefore, I won't get distracted." "No need to worry," Senior White said full of confidence. "Fine. Once we're back, I'll help you register an account for the chat," Song Shuhang said while walking. "Good," Senior White said with a smile. *****. I found you, stressed by a mountain of books." Cultivator Sunflower had finally found his target. Just as the information said, he was a kind-hearted and harmless university student. Besides the target, there was also a handsome man. The two of them were merrily chatting. Cultivator Sunflower secretly inspected them. Stressed by a mountain of books had just opened his heart aperture, and the quantity of chi and blood in his body was still weak. On the other hand, that handsome man was a normal person. He took a look at the surroundings and, unexpectedly, there wasn't a single person around here. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. Cultivator Sunflower made up his mind and moved forward with great strides. Afterwards, he said in a grave tone, "Boy, stop immediately. Now, look how I capture this Song Shu-hang." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. After hearing the voice, Song Shu-hang turned his head out of curiosity. He saw a man running toward him. The man had a pretty face but a very muscular body. Song Shu-hang was puzzled. Did he know this guy? Is he talking to us? Senior White also turned his head out of curiosity. I don't think so. I don't know him, Song Shu-hang replied. Oh, Senior White lightly nodded. And just as they were chatting, Senior White stumbled upon something and fell on the ground. Did he get distracted when he turned his head? Song Shu-hang's eyes widened. F***CK. No matter how much he was prepared, he wasn't prepared for this. He hadn't expected that just turning his head could make Senior White trip and fall. It happened too quickly. Song Shu-hang had just reacted when Senior White reached the ground. Boom! A deafening explosion followed. It was like a bolt from the blue. I'm going to fall in the pit. Song Shu-hang thought in his head. The dust spread in all directions. At this time, you could see a crater with a diameter of 30 meters in the place where True Monarch White had fallen. Song Shu-hang fell on his butt inside the pit. He quickly patted his body. Unexpectedly, he was unscathed. Did Senior White protect him at the last minute? After the dust had settled down, Senior White crawled from the hole as if nothing had happened. Then, he patted his body that didn't even have a speck of dust on it and asked, How did I exactly fall? Little friend Shu-hang, are you all right? I was lucky, nothing happened. Even all the things we bought are fine, Song Shu-hang replied. Eh? Wait a moment. What happened to the person that was calling them? Song Shu-hang opened his eyes and looked at a faraway place. Cultivator Sunflower was running at full speed toward Song Shu-hang. And since he couldn't stop in time, he also fell into the pit. However, he was lucky to fall on the edge of the crater. Therefore, he was in a sorry state but hadn't suffered any actual injury. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva as he stared at True Monarch White and Song Shu-hang, who were in the middle of the hole. At this moment, his mind was blank, and he couldn't think of anything. After a while, he mustered his strength and stood up. He wanted to get out of this hole. Excuse me, were you talking to me just now? Song Shu-hang asked. Then, he smiled bitterly as he said, It's really strange. Did the earth give in? Luckily, no one was hurt. Gave in your mother, you goddamn bullshitter. I clearly saw that it was the handsome man by your side that created this gigantic hole by falling. Cultivator Sunflower cursed in his heart. However, he still maintained his terrified expression as he said, I'm sorry. I got the wrong person. When I saw your back just now, I mistook you for a friend. But when you turned your head, I discovered that I had got the wrong person. I really miss this good friend of mine. Then, I'll get going. This place where the earth can give in at any moment seems very dangerous. Cultivator Sunflower turned around and used all of his strength to run away from the pit. He got the wrong person? Song Shu-hang held his chin. He felt that there was something wrong with this guy. At this time, Senior White said, Little friend Shu-hang, let's get out of the hole. I need to use my ground leveling spell. No need, no need. We might as well take our leave, let people think that the earth gave in. Song Shu-hang swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Even if the place was deserted, the deafening explosion from before was bound to attract the attention of the nearby people. Who knew how many people were already gazing in this direction? A hole appearing in the ground could be attributed to the earth suddenly giving in. However, if Senior White were to use his ground leveling spell, making the hole disappear, it would complicate things even further because it would resemble a supernatural phenomenon. Of the 36 stratagems, fleeing is the best. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 162, Yuga Use Video. Chapter 162, Yuga Use Video. Translator, Godbrandy Editor, Karisu. Chapter 162, Yuga Use Video. On the way back, Song Shuhang frowned. He felt that there was something wrong with that guy from before, and he wasn't talking about his flowery appearance. He felt that he wasn't your average man. Was he a cultivator? Back at Medicine Master's multi-storied building, the Peking East Dudu was still playing games and keeping his online wife company. However, he hadn't started the video call yet. He was waiting for Song Shuhang to return. He wanted him to chat with the girl in his stead. After setting up Senior White's computer, Song Shuhang installed a few essential programs on it. Then, he decided to register an account for the chat group. "Senior, what do you want to use as ID?" Song Shuhang asked. "White. After all, that is my DAO name," Senior White replied. Fine, Song Shuhang filled in the necessary information and registered the account. Then, he went inside the 9 Provinces #1 group and clicked on the button Add New Member. Done. Now, we only need to wait for True Monarch Yellow Mountain to accept the request. As they were chatting, his phone rang. "Hello, who is it?" Song Shuhang picked up the phone and asked. "Little friend Shuhang, I'm True Monarch Yellow Mountain. Are you free right now?" True Monarch Yellow Mountain's hearty laughter echoed from the phone. "Sure." "Oh, right. Senior Yellow Mountain, I was just looking for you. I helped Senior White register an account and added it to the chat. Remember to accept the request when you get online," Song Shuhang said with a smile. "Good, I'll go immediately. Is True Monarch White with you?" True Monarch Yellow Mountain asked. Song Shuhang replied, "Yes. I'm installing some programs on his computer." "Well done. I'm going to add True Monarch White to the group." After finishing his sentence, he quickly hung up the phone. "Ah? Senior, you didn't say why you called me." Song Shuhang shouted, but True Monarch Yellow Mountain was already gone. What was True Monarch playing at? Ding tilde the chat program sent a notification on the computer. Senior White's account had been added to the group. The request has been accepted. Do you want to set a nickname inside the group? Song Shuhang asked. Let me see. Senior scrolled through the group, and after pondering a bit, he chose the Venerable White as his nickname. Then, as soon as he finished setting his nick, the 9 Provinces #1 group became lively. "True Monarch Yellow Mountain, fellow Daoist White, you made a breakthrough? Deluo Sect's True Monarch Rain Moon, whoa. Senior White, congratulations for becoming a 7th stage spiritual venerable. Scholar Drunken Moon, Senior, congratulations for breaking through. Asterisk asterisk asterisk." A lot of members popped out one after another to give their congratulations to Senior White. "Yes, I broke through 100 years ago," Senior White replied with a smile. 100 years ago? You mean you kept cultivating for 100 years even after breaking through? True Monarch Yellow Mountain wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. True Monarch White wasn't a cultivation madman for nothing. Oh, wait. He was Venerable White now. Cave Lord Snow Wolf, Senior, in front of you, I can only kneel down. Dharma King Creation, Senior, accept my 10 years worth of kneeling down. Venerable 7th Cultivator of True Virtue, fellow Daoist White, congratulations for becoming a spiritual venerable. Yellow Mountain, you should also put some extra effort into cultivating. Fellow Daoist White broke through more than 100 years ago, he'll leave you in the dust at this pace. 1. True Monarch Yellow Mountain smiled. How could he compare himself to Venerable White? After all, the thing the latter loved the most was exactly cultivating. The group started to get more and more lively. Senior White was propping himself up with his hand while sliding his finger on the screen, sending 1 or 2 replies now and then. Every time he would come out of secluded meditation, he would feel as if the world and the humans had greatly changed. Everything would suddenly turn unfamiliar. Only the presence of these fellow Taoists would remind him that he was still in the world he knew. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. After settling things on Senior White's end, Song Shuhang arrived at Dudu's side and asked, "Dudu, do you want a gift?" "What gift?" Dudu looked at Song Shuhang, somewhat puzzled. Ding ding dong. Song Shuhang brought out the notebook one by Senior White. Senior White already had a computer, therefore, this one would remain unused. Do you want it? 2. Dudu stared at Song Shuhang for a while. Afterwards, he spat out his tongue and said, "Woof. Go on, you need my help for something, right?" "Hee hee. As expected, you're a reasonable dog. I indeed need help for a little matter, but it shouldn't be anything difficult for you." Song Shuhang said, "On our way back, we met a strange man. I feel that there was something wrong with him." Then, he started to describe that pretty boy with a muscular body he had met to Dudu. Since the incident with Altar Master, Song Shuhang was always on alert against these suspicious characters. What would he do if that man were to try to hurt his friends like Altar Master's subordinates? "So, what do you want me to do?" Dudu asked, puzzled. "I was wondering if you could go to the crater created by Senior White and sniff the scent of that guy, helping me find out his whereabouts and background," Song Shuhang asked. "Good. It's a deal then." Dudu stretched out his paw and patted Song Shuhang's hand. "However, I'm only responsible for finding out his identity. I won't take care of him." "No problem," Song Shuhang replied with a smile. "Good, I've accepted your request. Now, you have to keep your end of the deal." Dudu pointed to the computer and said, "Come, you have to make a video call with my wife Radot." "What should I do?" Song Shuhang asked. "Just sit there and don't move. I'll take control of the in-game character. And then, when I tell you to smile, make sure to reveal a dazzling smile." "That's it," Dudu said. "Good. If it's just smiling, I should be able to do it." Song Shuhang sat in front of the computer and turned on the webcam. Dudu opened the chat program and logged in with his own account. "Wife, start the video call. It's time to look at your handsome husband." The Pekingese Dudu quickly typed on the keyboard. After seeing Dudu shamelessly boasting like that, Song Shuhang got a little embarrassed, because he was this handsome husband. "Ah? Husband, you can finally make a video call?" The little girl quickly replied, starting the video call at the same time. Soon, the picture of a 17 or 18 years old girl appeared on the screen. Her complexion was even ruddier than yesterday, she appeared more lively than ever. And Song Shuhang's face also appeared on the girl's computer. Compared to that picture from several years ago, he appeared more mature. He was brimming with energy. "I can make a video call. However, the audio isn't working yet." "You'll have to bear with it," Dudu quickly replied. Then, he said to Song Shuhang, "Snap out of it. Look at the webcam and show a gentle smile." Song Shuhang waved his hand at the webcam and revealed a very natural smile. "So handsome. Husband Tilda, I like you so much." The little girl pouted and sent a kiss. Song Shuhang felt his face become red. This was just too embarrassing. Come. Let's play the game. Today, we won't go to conquer any zone, we'll go to kill people. Yesterday, I spent all night collecting the 5 stars War God set. Therefore, we'll give a good lesson to those guys that camped and killed you repeatedly yesterday." Dudu said excitedly. Then, he turned toward Song Shuhang and said, "Go, make a self-confident and cool expression. Try to collaborate a bit." Song Shuhang took a deep breath. Then, his eyes started to shine. Now, his face was brimming with self-confidence. "Husband Tilda, you're incredible. I love you so much." The little girl laughed happily. Song Shuhang looked at the webcam and raised his thumb in approval. But after that last sentence, his embarrassment had reached the limit, and this made him lose his mind. Therefore, he decided to throw away the little dignity he had left. Dudu and the girl quickly entered the game and started to chop people up. Song Shuhang was to coordinate with Dudu. Therefore, he made all kinds of different expressions. A handsome expression, an excited one, one where he was laughing like a madman and so on. He felt as if he was on his way to becoming a superstar. When he was free, he took his mobile phone and went on the website of the campus to see some news. Then, a news piqued his interest. Absolutely shocking. Today, the earth near the electronic shopping center in the vicinity of Jiangnan College Town gave in. The hole left behind by this subsidence of the earth has a diameter of 30 meters. According to the witnesses, there was a deafening explosion just before the earth gave in. The cause of this subsidence of the earth is still unknown. We encourage all the students in the nearby areas to pay attention. This news was already on the website of the campus. Hopefully, the government will come up with a cause for this subsidence of the earth. Then, he kept scrolling through the website of the campus. After scrolling for a while, a familiar name piqued his interest, Zhuge Yu. Waha! I laughed so much that I thought I was going to die. This is our Chinese kung fu seen through the eyes of a foreigner. Danger ahead, proceed with caution. Don't drink water while watching this video. Then, there was a video taken from a mobile phone as well as a brief introduction. Last night, I accompanied my mother during a business reception. It was to welcome the foreign partner that had come to inspect the company. Then, this foreigner drank quite a bit during the evening banquet. At that point, he decided to show a few Chinese kung fu moves to the people at the reception. He said he learned these moves from an expert when he attended the athletic competition at his daughter's school. Anyway, enough chit-chat. Look at the video. Song Shuhang froze on the spot. Chinese kung fu, foreigner, athletic competition, expert? When alone, these words didn't tell him anything. However, when he put them together, they gave him a very bad feeling. He clicked on the video. A tall and big foreigner appeared on the screen. Hiccup tilde today, I drank to my heart's content. Everyone, let me show you a bit of Chinese kung fu. Chinese tilde kung tilde fu tilde. I recently attended the athletic competition at my daughter's school, and there, I met an expert. And after begging this person, I finally received a set of lost techniques. The foreigner spoke in an awkward Mandarin. Then, he cupped his hands and saluted everyone. At this time, he started to perform the so-called Chinese kung fu. Yi, san, sai, wu, liu, qi, ba. San, sai, wu, liu, qi, ba. Sai, san, sai, wu, liu, qi, ba. The foreigner started to shout this slogan. This was the second chapter of the calisthenics radio music the times are calling. Everyone was taken by surprise and thoroughly shocked. 3. The whole audience was rendered speechless by the lost technique of this foreigner. Several Chinese shareholders tried to suppress their embarrassment and decided to give him an applause. Actually, they couldn't help but stand up and applaud. Otherwise, they would have been unable to hold back their laughter. Therefore, they started to applaud to keep themselves occupied, so as to avoid laughing rudely. And, in the worst case, they could cover their laughter with the sound of the applause. In the video, Zhuge Yu already had a flowery smile on her face and was shaking all over. Song Shuhang covered his face from shame, not daring to look straight anymore. Because, covering his face alone wasn't enough to describe his current feelings, he knew this foreigner. It was Joseph Agai Maupassant, Song Shuhang's nominal disciple. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 163, Making a Contract with the Ghost Spirit. Chapter 163, Making a Contract with the Ghost Spirit. Translator, Godbrandy Editor, Karisu. There were many likes and replies under the video, and the number of views was even higher. Almost 30% of the students at the campus had already seen the video, and this number was bound to keep increasing. Song Shuhang wiped the sweat off his forehead. Wasn't Joseph Agai Maupassant's daughter also at Jiangnan College Town? How would she react after seeing the video? As first thing, she would beat to death that Zhuge Yu that made the video public. And a second thing, she would probably want to give a good beating to that expert that taught her father those Chinese kung fu moves, right? Luckily, he didn't tell Joseph his name when he taught him that lost technique. Otherwise, she would be already on her way. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In the afternoon, Song Shuhang diligently went to class. Recently, he hadn't attended too many lessons, and he felt a bit embarrassed about it. Tubo came over and asked in a low voice, "Shuhang, where have you been for the past few days? You didn't even return to the dormitory." The nearby Lu Fei was also curiously looking at Song Shuhang. Whenever he would come to class, Lu Fei would sit beside him and take advantage of the cold air he was emitting. Recently, a friend of mine came over. I helped him find a house, and I had to go to his place a few times to give him a hand. I've been busy with that, Song Shuhang said with a smile. He said the truth, however, this friend was a bit special. Jiao Mumu pushed up his glasses and said, "Shuhang, you shouldn't miss the next lessons, because they will focus on the test held at the end of the term. The tests will be held on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th day of the month, and on July 6th we will have a day off. If you fail, you'll have to take a make-up test, and that would be troublesome." The test at the end of the term? F***CK. I had completely forgotten about it. Song Shuhang rubbed his temples. After meeting the cultivators of the 9 provinces #1 group, his life had drastically changed. The refining of the body tempering liquid, the incident with Altar Master, the events at the Immortal Farming Sect and Moon Saber Sect, and also the meeting with True Monarch White, in a little more than a month, he had experienced incredible things that an average man wouldn't be able to experience for his entire life. After all this, his mind had been sharpened quite a bit. When he recalled these things, he wondered if these experiences were real or just a dream. He had almost forgotten that he was still a university student and that the term would end soon, marking the start of the summer vacation. But before enjoying the summer vacation, he had to face the test at the end of the term. He would have to thoroughly review the contents of the lessons in these days. "Do you think you'll be able to pass it?" Tubo came over and asked. "Don't worry. The final test isn't enough to stop me," Song Shuhang said with confidence. Li Yangda said with a smile, "Tubo said the same thing last year. Afterwards, he had to do the make-up test, and I had to stay behind to give him supplementary lessons. Cut me some slack, Yangda." Tubo hammered Yangda with his fist. Jiao Mumu turned his head and asked, "So, do you plan to go somewhere during the summer vacation?" Tubo said, "I haven't decided yet. I will probably return home and spend some time in my father's machinery repair shop as usual. He brought in many new models that I can enjoy for the whole summer." It had to be said that now that Song Shuhang was here, the surrounding temperature had decreased quite a lot. It was very strange. Li Yangda said, "I have to participate in a release conference. The program I'm developing with the others is almost complete. I'll be busy with it for the next couple of months." Jiao Mumu's face was disgusted as he said, "You two really don't know how to enjoy life. Leaving aside machinery and programs, shouldn't you go to different places and have some fun during summer vacation? Sandy beaches, highlands, snow-covered mountains, the boundless ocean, or small islands. Life is short, shouldn't you have fun while you're still young?" Li Yangda looked at him in a strange manner and said, "That's just wasting time. What's even the point? You're hopeless." "Of course there is a point." Jiao Mumu sighed with emotion as he facepalmed himself. Meters away from the hole left behind by the meteorite. If his luck wasn't good, he would have been crushed to death by it. At the time, True Monarch White thoughtlessly broke down the meteorite and obtained Polestar Dawn steel, starry iron, pure gold stone, and many other materials that could be used by cultivators. And after he finished collecting the materials, he gave him almost half of them, saying it was the first meeting gift. He thought that this was only a coincidence. However, after following behind True Monarch White for several days, he experienced many strange phenomena. When casually walking, strange things would appear on the ground. Lightning would casually strike old trees, giving birth to the precious lightning-struck wood. When passing by a mountain, there would be a random landslide that would make raw medicine materials like ginseng resurface. The danger was everywhere, and you would face innumerable crises, but True Monarch White was able to obtain the maximum benefit every time. Speaking of which, except for the continuous mortal danger, the benefits weren't half bad, right? Anyway, it'll be better to tell little friend Song Shuhang to pay attention to his security. Then, True Monarch Yellow Mountain immediately dialed Song Shuhang's number. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 166, Do You Obey? Chapter 166, Do You Obey? Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Kurisu. True Monarch Yellow Mountain immediately gave Song Shuhang a call, but after listening to a melodious caller tune that played over and over again 3 times in total, all he heard was, "I am sorry, the person you are trying to reach is currently unavailable. Please try again later." He hung up in frustration. What is little friend Shuhang doing? Why isn't he picking up his phone? At this moment, however, Song Shuhang was busy making a contract with the ghost spirit. His phone was in silent mode, so of course he couldn't receive the call. What should I do? Should I try to send him a message via the 1,000-mile sound transmitter? True Monarch Yellow Mountain thought to himself. However, he shook his head immediately after. Even though Song Shuhang had a 1,000-mile sound transmitter in his possession, his strength and capability were insufficient. If they were to have an exchange, it would only be a one-way conversation. The other side would only be able to hear, but not speak. At that time, if Venerable White were to stand next to Song Shuhang and listen in on the contents of their conversation, it would be bad as it would be awkward. I shall try again a little later. Also, the first batch of cars that was ordered would have to be sent to that parking area in Jiangnan tomorrow, so I might as well tell little friend Shuhang about Venerable White's past then. That was True Monarch Yellow Mountain's plan. On another side. Since it was still between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., Venerable White decided to redo the 5-element spirit contracting altar formation. This time, the saliva of Ghost Dragon was not used. This was because the ghost spirit managed to escape from the spirit binding ice bead, hence the saliva of Ghost Dragon would no longer be effective. After erecting the formation, Venerable White directly pinned the fist-sized ghost spirit onto the center of the 5-element spirit contracting altar. He did not even employ any ceiling formation. The ghost spirit fidgeted uneasily for a bit, but eventually settled down obediently in its original position. It was already very weak, to the extent that it could barely stir. Well, even if it could move, it did not have the guts to do that anyway. Shuhang, in a moment, skip the 5 tribulations, directly activate the formation and make the contract with it, reminded Venerable White. The ghost spirit was extremely weak at this moment, and also because its middle rank was temporarily lowered, even the small golden shield could not be used by it. Not to mention the 5 tribulations, even the first metal tribulation might be enough to take away its small life. Song Shuhang nodded and started chanting the incantations, surrounded the formation and performed a round of the dance. Thereafter, he placed both hands on the formation, activating the 5-element spirit contracting altar. Upon activation, he skipped the first steps and directly engaged the power of the 5-element spirit contracting altar formation to create a contract that he sent in the direction of the ghost spirit. The ghost spirit shook slightly. It did not resist this time and obediently accepted the ghost spirit contract. It was already too weak. If it did not receive any supplements, it might well end up in danger of dissipating entirely. Moreover, ever since the core of Ghost Spirit was gathered, its intellect was raised by quite a bit. It understood the logic behind the phrase, "A wise man will not fight when the odds are obviously stacked against him." 1. In order to survive and quickly recover its power, after completing the contract with Song Shuhang, it needed to take the initiative to link its consciousness and energy with Song Shuhang. Because of that, the time taken by Song Shuhang to synchronize and proceed with the process of sharing consciousness and energy would be significantly shortened. It would take around a week at most for him to fully synchronize with the ghost spirit. All preparations were in order, thus Song Shuhang shouted, "Contract, establish!" the stones of the 5 elements above the 5-element spirit contracting altar, as well as all kinds of materials of similar alignment all lit up. Ultimately, the power of the formation was transformed into 2 contract runes. One of them was integrated into the ghost spirit's body, and the other merged with Song Shuhang's heart. I succeeded! Song Shuhang cheered joyfully. It only took him 2 attempts to succeed. This result was way better than expected. Think about the number of times Soft Feather failed. You did well, Venerable White said, and continued giving pointers. Take advantage of the fact that the contract just got established, and thus the effects of the 5-element spirit contracting altar have not entirely disappeared. Quickly use your meditation technique to try and establish a connection with the ghost spirit. Strike while the iron is hot. Yes. Song Shuhang sat cross-legged on the ground, using the True Self meditation scripture. Mental energy radiated from within his true self, following the contract runes in an attempt to link with the ghost spirit. The ghost spirit started to float over the formation. Following the rune within his heart, it entered Song Shuhang's body. Thereafter, Song Shuhang experienced a sudden zero-gravity sensation that was felt when taking an elevator. His senses have then merged with those of the ghost spirit. He could interact with the external world via the ghost spirit. Just like human beings, ghost spirits had senses, be it hearing, sight, smell, or touch. They were the same. However, their sense of sight could undergo further transformation. On top of having the same visuals as human beings, they also possessed sight of God, the ability to have a bird's-eye view from the skies. At this moment, Song Shuhang could feel, via the ghost spirit, that he was in a warm place. Warm energy from all directions was surging towards the ghost spirit, allowing it to swiftly recover and return to its original state. This is heart aperture? Song Shuhang immediately understood. The place where the ghost spirit resided was the first aperture he had opened, the heart aperture. The energy that kept flowing towards the ghost spirit was in fact Song Shuhang's qi and blood energy. The energy consumption required for the ghost spirit to recover from its wounds previously had been huge, so its rank had dropped from middle to low. As of now, it required huge amounts of qi and blood energy to heal its injuries and then raise its rank back to a middle-rank ghost spirit. What a waste! I opened only one aperture. The qi and blood energy I could provide for the ghost spirit would thus be limited. If I could open another aperture, I would be able to provide 2 times the qi and blood energy, and the ghost spirit's recovery would definitely be faster. Am I right? Song Shuhang thought to himself. He had to put in some extra effort. Before the ghost spirit made a full recovery, it would keep consuming the qi and blood energy from within his aperture until it recovered, and it would be unable to accelerate his cultivation speed. Eventually, it would end up increasing the difficulty of him opening another heart aperture. However, sharpening your axe does not delay your job of cutting firewood. I will just take this consumption as payment for the preparations pertaining to the ghost spirit add-on. 2. This thought flashed across Song Shuhang's mind. Meanwhile, the ghost spirit within the heart aperture started shaking all of a sudden. Thereafter, the body of the ghost spirit started dissipating. Apart from keeping the core of ghost spirit and maintaining the minimum amount of energy necessary to sustain its body, other parts of its body turned into pure energy that was being sent straight into Song Shuhang's heart aperture. In the next moment, this pure energy overflowed steadily from the heart aperture, following the channel between the heart aperture and the eye aperture, pouring into the latter. What did this mean? Song Shuhang didn't need to take long and quickly realized the ghost spirit meant to help him open his eye aperture. Next, Song Shuhang once again experienced the same refreshing sensation he once felt when he stood at the coordinates given to him by the seniors outside the Moon Saber sect, when his blood and qi quantity within the aperture rocketed. But this time, the qi and blood quantity within the eye aperture increased at a much faster rate, and even more violently. Venerable White on the side quickly sensed Song Shuhang's unusual condition. He gave Song Shuhang a quick examination and laughed heartily. As expected, the luck of this young fellow Daoist isn't half bad, Venerable White softly said to himself. Soon after, he took out the old bronze ring that once belonged to the man in green Daoist robe whose flying corpse flew from far away and landed on the ground. To an esteemed figure like Venerable White, a third-stage equipment like this ring was of a grade that was too low. Even if it was the most useful spirit-gathering formation, it was still useless to him. the effects of the spirit-gathering formation which Venerable White drew himself inside the fridge would not be any weaker than that of the bronze ring. Of course, to the first stage Song Shu Hang, the effects of the spirit-gathering formations on it would be very good. Venerable White reached his hands out and rubbed on the bronze ring, removing the seal of the original owner, Li Tiansu. After that, he squatted next to Song Shu Hang, putting the ring on his hand. He laughed and said softly, "At least this can offset some of the money you used to buy a computer, mobile phone, and other items for me." Such a gift from Venerable White to Song Shu Hang had the same effect as bringing a painted dragon to life by adding pupils to its eyes. 3. When the ring was worn on his finger, it was automatically activated. In an instant, the spiritual qi around him became stronger. When he breathed, he could breathe in quite an amount of pure spiritual qi. In his eye aperture, qi and blood quantity kept on rising and rising. At last, just like the heart aperture, under the right conditions, the eye aperture opened. Song Shu Hang opened his eyes, rays of light shot out from both of them. At the same time, black tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. That was the result of impurities, which blocked the eye aperture earlier, being expelled from his body upon the opening of the eye aperture. The second aperture, eye aperture, open. Having been practicing for only 1 month, to accomplish the feat of opening 2 apertures consecutively for a first stage was rare, even for disciples from big and famous sects. Even though Song Shu Hang resorted to more tricks than others, luck to cultivators was also one of the many forms of strength and capability. Fate was a mystery of mysteries, but no cultivator would belittle fate and destiny. If luck was enough to defy the natural order, a small useless being could eventually become one of the most almighty figures in the world. Cultivating was a job that relied a lot on fate and destiny. Song Shu Hang wiped the black tears from the corners of his eyes and lightly blinked. At this moment, he felt like the entire world seemed like it upgraded from a standard definition video to a high definition video. The feeling was such a rush that he just stood there with a blank face. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. On another side, inside Jiangnan's prison, Zhao Bulu sat on the bed. The Western monk was in front of him. His face was stern as he was chanting, "From now till death, do not kill." "Do you obey?" Zhao Bulu with tears in both eyes said, "I obey." The Western monk continued to ask, "From now till death, do not steal." "Do you obey?" Zhao Bulu choked with sobs, "I obey." The Western monk asked for the 3rd time, "From now till death, do not tell lies." "Do you obey?" Zhao Bulu quivered as he responded, "I obey." The Western monk nodded his head in approval and used his fingers like a knife to lightly scrape Zhao Bulu's head. Strands of Zhao Bulu's black hair kept falling. The Western monk asked once again, "From now till death, do not consume alcohol." "Do you obey?" Zhao Bulu answered expressionlessly, "I obey." The Western monk was full of satisfaction as he shaved all of his hair. All that was left was just a shiny bald head. Last but not least, he said, "From now till death, do not lust." "Do you obey?" Zhao Bulu's eyes and face were devoid of emotion. "I obey." "Excellent, excellent." The Western monk retrieved the special incense stick, which he prepared earlier, and poked Zhao Bulu's head 6 times in a row, creating 6 neat burn scars. The Western monk blew at his head and admired his masterpiece with much content. "I'm so nice to you, I gave you 6 scars at one go. Unlike your teacher's master, who only gave me 4 scars, I had to add 2 more myself." Zhao Bulu's lifeless eyes finally showed a tinge of emotions, one that was full of grief and sorrow. "I wish you were as stingy as your master. It would have been even better if you did not burn a single scar on my head. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 167, Innate Skill of the Eye Aperture. Chapter 167, Innate Skill of the Eye Aperture. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Kurisu. After opening the second aperture of the first stage, the eye aperture, chances were that the cultivator would be able to develop an innate skill. the lucky ones would be able to receive a skill like clairvoyance. Those with poorer luck could also receive skills such as long-distance vision, clarity vision, microscopic vision, etc. They could receive all kinds of skills, and if one's luck were to be horrendous, they might end up with nothing. However, even if one were to be left with nothing, there was no need to feel discouraged. There were 5 apertures in total: heart aperture, eye aperture, nose aperture, ear aperture, mouth aperture. Apart from the heart aperture, there were still 4 of them left, and opening any of them entailed a chance that the cultivator would be bestowed with a skill. Till now, generally every single cultivator would have unlocked at least one of the skills from an aperture. Those with better luck might even have received 2 different skills. However, 2 was already the maximum. No one had ever heard of anyone receiving 3 or more innate skills. Song Shuhang's luck was not considered bad. Upon opening the eye aperture, he received an innate skill. Out of curiosity, he decided to try out the innate skill obtained from the eye aperture. It wasn't the legendary clairvoyance, and neither was it one of the all-too-familiar long-distance, clarity, or microscopic vision. When he activated the skill, the whole world instantly seemed as though it stopped and then started to move in slow motion. The faintly swaying curtain, the small debris on the ground that was being swept up by the wind, as well as the summer bugs flying outside the window. All of the above were moving in slow motion in Song Shuhang's eyes. The duration was only approximately a second, but to Song Shuhang, it felt like more than 10 seconds. After that, he felt as though his mental energy got depleted. His head felt an indistinct pain, and the slow motion mode was forcefully terminated. Such an eye aperture innate skill could be called expert sight, or even superhuman sight, as in the eyes of experts, enemies' movements often seem as though they are at a standstill. The effect was pretty good. In crucial times, it could probably be used to turn the situation mid-combat around. The only catch was that it used too much mental energy as well as chi and blood. In the early stage, once was enough to deplete his vitality. In the later stages, since he would already be an expert, the chance for him to use the innate skill was lowered. On the whole, it felt kind of useless. It wasn't considered good, but it wasn't considered bad either. That being said, to awaken an innate skill was a good fortune in itself. At least half of all cultivators were unable to awaken an innate skill when opening the eye aperture. When you opened the eye aperture, you managed to awaken the innate skill? Asked Venerable White. Yes, I obtained an innate skill. But the consumption of mental energy is very high, Song Shuhang replied, smiling bitterly. Venerable White smiled and said, as long as you could activate it, it is a joyous thing. You unlocked the innate skill at the first try. You might still be able to obtain another innate skill when you open the remaining 3 apertures. If your mental energy is insufficient, then think of a way to increase it. Anyway, we shall call it a day here. Take a good rest, do not practice anymore, Venerable White added. Song Shuhang's energy was greatly depleted. If he continued to practice, it would only cause internal injuries. All right, Senior, replied Song Shuhang. However, as they say, the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak. He wouldn't be able to practice even if he wanted to. Earlier, when he activated that expert sight, the consumption of his energy was too huge and now waves of sleepiness kept surging within him. All he wanted to do now was to look for a bed, climb into it, and sleep. Well then, Senior, I am going to rest, said Song Shuhang. He inched towards his room in extreme exhaustion. Because he was too tired out, he still had not noticed the old bronze ring on his finger. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. After Song Shuhang left, Venerable White went to close the window shut. Thereafter, he lightly flicked the short blue sword with his finger. As if it had its own spirit, it started floating in the air and followed behind Venerable White. Loose cultivator, Li Tiansu, Venerable White said softly. Since he asked for his name, it implied that he chose to accept his karma. If one day he were to meet Li Tiansu's juniors or relatives and they needed help, based on today's karma, he would certainly extend a helping hand. After that, Venerable White went downstairs, near the multi-storied building, and drew a few sets of runes. He also restored the damage to the formation which had been set up by a medicine master. Done. Venerable White stretched his body as he thought, what should I do next? Soon, his gaze fell on the air conditioner on the second floor. I was finally able to convince fellow Daoist Shu Hang to sleep. I shall take the opportunity to disassemble the air conditioner and study it. Hence, Venerable White happily went to disassemble it. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. On another side, Cultivator Sunflower was currently located at a hotel near the Jiangnan College town. It took him the rest of the day and slightly past 1 a.m. and quite some effort to recover from the falling on the ground incident. In between, because he was worried that Song Shuhang might suddenly appear with that senior for revenge, he had to change his clothes a couple of times. He even found a couple of rooms to take a number of showers to remove his body scent. Also, he even sprayed himself with a liquid that got rid of his aura. He continuously suffered until now. Till now, that stressed by a mountain of books has yet to find me. Perhaps he really took me for an ordinary passerby? Cultivator Sunflower thought to himself. He sat in meditation and practiced 1 round, allowing his mental state to stabilize. At the same time, his mind was pondering today's incident. One thing is sure though, that stressed by a mountain of books is definitely just an ordinary newbie cultivator. If it was merely him, I could easily catch him and take the blood god crystal from his hands without problem. However, the identity of the intimidating senior cultivator next to him is unknown, and what exactly is his relationship with stressed by a mountain of books? Would this senior actually constantly be by his side? Or would he leave after a couple of days? Rubbing his temples, he had already told an informant of the Limitless Demon Sect to look for the latest information pertaining to stressed by a mountain of books to see if he could find any clues or traces. At that moment, his cell phone rang. Hello, is this Cultivator Sunflower? The report on stressed by a mountain of books that you needed is ready. Come to the Parmeet Hotel, we will pass the report to you there, said the guy on the end of the line in a nonchalant voice. Got it. Cultivator Sunflower stood up, got out, and called for a taxi. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Hey brother, where are you going? The driver was a man with a stubbled face. You could tell that he had a lot of life experience under his belt from the weary look in his eyes. Parmeet Hotel, Cultivator Sunflower replied plainly. That's pretty far, replied the driver. It's okay. I have enough money, replied Cultivator Sunflower plainly once again. Okay then, sit tight, the driver then smiled. He stepped on the gas and the car went off at a fast speed as if it was flying. Cultivator Sunflower, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, kept frowning, worrying about that stressed by a mountain of books issue. His entire being was giving off a gloomy vibe. The taxi driver thought he was in a bad mood, so he asked, Brother, feeling depressed? Wanna listen to some music and relax a little? Cultivator Sunflower thought about it and nodded, all right, turn some music on to relax a little. He was indeed too uptight, listening to calm music could perhaps help him ease his state of mind. It was very soon that Cultivator Sunflower couldn't have regretted his decision more. Damn it, instead of turning on radio, the driver actually opened up his larynx and started singing happily. If he wanted to sing, then so be it. With his stubbled face sort of look, it might be pretty good if he sang some meaningful ballads in a deep voice. However, he actually sang a feminine, light-hearted and gentle song, originally sung by female artiste a long time ago, if he recalled correctly. Ooh tilde I like it, leaning on your chest like that tilde. Ooh tilde I like it, waking up next to you tilde. Ooh tilde I like it, when you place your hand over my shoulders tilde. Can you imagine the picture of an old stubble-faced man singing a love song ever so gently like water, such a beautiful sight? On the contrary, he himself had no sense of self-awareness at all, he even thought that he sang superbly. As he was singing, his personal preferences could be inferred from his song choices. Love songs were sung one after another, without a single exception, all of them belonged to the passionate and gentle as water genre. Well, honestly, you can't blame the taxi driver. Those were the songs he usually listened to. He was after all a manly man, he definitely would want to listen to gentle little girls' voices. After listening for quite some time, of course he would be able to sing them. Cultivator Sunflower, who was leaning against the front passenger seat, could feel his stress level increasing exponentially. "Don't sing anymore," he said in a deep voice. "I want some peace and quiet." The taxi driver smacked his lips, a regretful expression on his face. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. At this moment, above the taxi which Cultivator Sunflower was in, a small and nimble Pekingese was tailing him. A single-lens reflex camera was hung around the neck of the Pekingese. It contained the pictures of the scene where Cultivator Sunflower was talking on the phone earlier. Dudu looked at the screen of the camera and felt that his skills got better. As a monster dog, his strength and capability were remarkable. He had 100 ways to tail Cultivator Sunflower while at the same time avoiding detection. However, to Dudu, investigating and tailing the other party was not something that should be taken too lightly. After that, we shall see what kind of information on Song Shuhang this Cultivator Sunflower person could get, and what his next course of actions would be. After taking the pictures, Dudu prepared to head home. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Soon, the taxi driver stopped at Parmeet Hotel. Cultivator Sunflower paid the taxi fare and rushed to get off the taxi as though he was escaping from something. Thereafter, he arrived at an internet cafe next to Parmeet Hotel to meet with the informant from the Limitless Demon Sect. Because Su Clan 7 had been causing trouble to the Limitless Demon Sect recently, Limitless Demon Sect's informants took extra precautions these days. They feared that he would track their whereabouts and then annihilate their whole branch. Cultivator Sunflower casually looked for a computer and sat down. After that, he took out a pack of cigarettes and went online. About half an hour later, the guy beside him suddenly whispered softly, "This is all the information with regards to Stressed by a Mountain of Books. You have to be careful these days, do not get caught by the Spirit River Su Clan's people. Su Clan 7 is practically crazy, a lot of the sect's informants have been taken away by his people." In between the speech, the guy flicked his finger and secretly passed a USB flash drive to Cultivator Sunflower. Cultivator Sunflower secretly kept the USB flash drive. After half an hour, he got up and left the internet cafe. From his arrival to departure, he never once looked at the guy beside him at all. If not for Spirit River Su Clan making a commotion, the information could have been sent via the internet. Cultivator Sunflower heaved a sigh. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 168, The Space Travel of a Domestic Air Conditioner. Chapter 168, The Space Travel of a Domestic Air Conditioner. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Karisu. Cultivator Sunflower looked for a hotel and used a computer there to view the information inside the USB flash drive. He was going to see just what Stressed by a Mountain of Books had been doing for the past 1 year. He started from the front and scrutinized it word by word in fear of leaving out important and useful clues. However, after looking through half a year worth of information, darn it, it was just an extremely ordinary everyday campus life of a university student, studying, attending classes, meeting new friends, getting good grades, and occasionally playing games. What he liked the most was going to the rental bookstore every day to freeload books. This was a sports-loving single youth who excelled in both morals and studies. However, practically nothing valuable could be found. Did the intelligence department trick me? Cultivator Sunflower thought that someone was playing jokes on him. Luckily, he held his horses and continued to read on all the way to the information on the past month and caught something suspicious. According to the investigations of the Intelligence Department of Limitless Demon Sect, a month ago, there was a small group of cultivators from the nearby town that investigated the past of Stressed by a Mountain of Books. However, afterwards, the leader of this group known as Altar Master died mysteriously, and this case mysteriously ended as well. According to the report from Limitless Demon Sect, the corpse of Altar Master was ultimately found on a subway. His body got cut into several pieces by someone with exquisite sword skills. The killer seemed like a Western monk, a first-stage cultivator with decent skills, who was currently incarcerated. That was all he could find in the Limitless Demon Sect's online database. After all, that small group acted discreetly, and it had already happened more than a month ago. It would be hard to retrieve any useful clues. After that, stressed by a mountain of books, Sioux Clan 7 and a junior of the Sioux Clan assembled together and participated in the Moon Saber sect incident. Opposing young Master Hi's evil scheme, they successfully removed a blood god crystal from his clutches. Those were the only two events when stressed by a mountain of books showed a side of him that separated him from an average kid. Cultivator Sunflower pinched his chin and started to get lost in deep thoughts. According to the information report, the remaining members of that group are first-stage cultivators with 2-3 apertures open. Their cultivation techniques are pretty weak. Perhaps I could make use of them. All I have to do is give them better techniques and materials. Who knows, maybe they might end up becoming my underlings. However, even if that group could be used in action, how should he deal with the senior next to stressed by a mountain of books? Wait a minute, was he forgetting something? F*CK. Young Mistress Candy. Previously, he'd entrusted a task to young Mistress Candy to go to the stressed by a mountain of books house to steal the blood god crystal. But the thing was, as of now, that stressed by a mountain of books had this intimidating senior cultivator by his side, and yet he had forgotten to remind young Mistress Candy about it. If she secretly tried to enter his house to steal the blood god crystal, she was definitely going to be strung up and beaten by that senior. Who knows, she might even be locked up in a basement, subjected to all kinds of torture. Cultivator Sunflower quickly grabbed his phone and dialed young Mistress Candy's phone number as fast as he could. Little Candy, Little Candy, I hope you ain't that quick to act. Pick up the phone, quick, pick up the phone. Sorry, the number you are dialing is currently unavailable. The automatic message from the phone allowed him to understand how brutal reality was. No, don't. Don't tell me she had already started the operation? The hand in which Cultivator Sunflower was holding the phone stiffened. Should I look for Little Candy and bring her back? However, whenever he thought about the intimidating senior who contributed to the falling on the ground incident, it inevitably became a trauma for Cultivator Sunflower. If I cross paths with that senior, he won't even have to attack me. It'd be enough for him to just throw himself on the ground as soon as I get close to him. What should I do? Not save her when she is in mortal danger? Cultivator Sunflower's face was filled with despair and helplessness. He was at a loss. At this time, he did not actually realize that there was a monster peeking east behind him that calmly used his claws to deactivate the video function on the single-lens reflex camera. He used magic to conceal his physical form, and openly tailed Cultivator Sunflower while videoing him. He waited till he was about done, then carefreely took his leave. After completing the mission, I will get a new model of laptop. Having my own laptop means never having to worry about fighting to use the computer with Song Shuhang or Senior White ever again. I can now play video games with wife whenever I want to. Oh yeah. To celebrate a little, what should I do? I should probably go back to scold that stupid Yellow Mountain. He actually did not come over to get me. I'm gonna spit saliva all over his face. How could that suppressed Daoist priest Cloudy Mist be more important than me, who ran away from home? What should I do after that? I should go back and think about how to look for some music. Wife can't possibly spend the whole day accompanying me. After all, ordinary people need some sleep. And since Yellow Mountain, that big idiot, did not come and pick me up, if I don't look for some nice songs, I would be bored to death. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. At this moment, in Medicine Master's multi-story building, Venerable White's face was filled with content as he placed a laptop, with its screen displaying the structure of the air conditioner, next to him. Thereafter, he disassembled the interior and exterior of the air conditioner and spread the components all over the floor. The mind of human beings is getting more and more meaningful. Cultivators don't need things like air conditioners, but to ordinary mankind, in the sweltering heat of summer, this is a must-have. It is really interesting. This era is truly a wonderful era. There are too many things that are worthy of being disassembled. Okay, before little friend Song Shuhang wakes up, I should probably assemble the air conditioner back together, said Venerable White as he started to piece the air conditioner, not forgetting the adjacent part of ventilation system, together. This time, he followed the lesson learned from the previous episode. From the moment he started disassembling, he memorized every step clearly. Soon after, the air conditioner had been completely reassembled. This time, I did not leave out a single part. Indeed, if I am serious about doing something, there would not be any problem. Venerable White's face was full of confidence as he brought the air conditioner to the second floor to reassemble it as a whole with the vent, and plug it in. After switching it on with the remote, Senior White's face beamed with confidence. Approximately 5 to 6 seconds later. Boom, boom, came the familiar sound of circuits frying. Shortly after, there was a gust of black smoke. The air conditioner overheated and was fried as well. Venerable White's body stiffened, and he hurriedly unplugged it from the power source. Why did it become like that? I clearly followed every step and there was no problem. Why did it overheat? Senior White was extremely frustrated. At the same time, he secretly glanced at Song Shuhang's room. Little friend Song Shuhang was still sound asleep. I don't have a choice, I just have to use magic to replace the air conditioner's function. Senior White rubbed his hands and disassembled it anew, preparing to engrave a spirit gathering formation, and then another automatic temperature adjusting formation. However, as he was about to engrave the formation, he suddenly thought of something. Ah, wait a minute, I don't think I have learned the automatic temperature adjusting formation. Senior White stared blankly. That was because after cultivators opened the heart aperture, they would already possess an automatic body temperature adjusting ability. There was no need for any automatic temperature adjusting formation. What should I do? Senior White stared at the air conditioner with a guilty expression. After much deliberation, he secretly took down the air conditioner once again and placed it into a box, moving it to the courtyard downstairs. Thereafter, he found a branch in the courtyard at random and pared it into the shape of a sword. He then engraved a bunch of complicated formations on it. At last, spiritual chi poured into the wooden sword. After those steps had been completed, the original plain wooden sword transformed into a floating rainbow-colored wooden sword. Senior White mumbled, "Ha ha, it's been a long time since I created something, I'm a bit out of practice." Disposable Flying Sword 00 for addition. As the name implied, this was a one-time use flying sword, uniquely created by Senior White. Following after, Senior White placed the packaged air conditioner onto the wooden flying sword. He executed a sword art, and displayed the sword controlling technique, do your thing. Disposable Flying Sword 00 for addition rose, along with the air conditioner, and soared into the sky, higher and higher. It soared, and soared. Upon reaching a certain height, it transformed into chunks of ice. However, the flying sword's speed was not affected, and it continued at a speed which wouldn't make it burst into flames because of friction, freely crossing through the atmospheric layer. Just like that, it flew into space, starting its endless voyage. As long as the spiritual energy within the disposable Flying Sword 00 for addition did not get completely consumed before that, and as long as it did not collide with any stars, a black hole, meteorites, or any similar dangers in the vacuum, this air conditioner would become the Earth's first domestic air conditioner to enjoy space travel. In fact, before the air conditioner, a luxurious carriage used by the Emperor, 3 mechanic dragons, 2 mechanic elephants, a monster snake that once committed an offense against Senior White, a precise seismograph, etc. shared this experience as well. All of them once sat on a disposable Flying Sword 001, disposable Flying Sword 002, and a disposable Flying Sword 003 under Senior White's help, and embarked on their tragic space travel. With regards to sending those items into space, Senior White had already showed his long-time experience. He could maintain control over the flying sword's speed, allowing it to cross through the atmospheric layer without exploding in flames. The sword and its burden also would not lose power and end up falling from the sky back onto Earth, via a sword art, freely starting its space voyage. Upon completing everything, Senior White wiped his sweat. Then, he returned to the second floor, and in the original location where the air conditioner had been placed, he engraved an illusory art formation. Soon after, a lifelike AC unit appeared in its original position. After that, Senior White drew another illusory art formation outside. Lifelike ventilation system parts then appeared in their original position as well. Ha ha, done. After that, in a few days' time, I will go to the chat group's fellow Daoist friends to change some money and secretly buy an air conditioner in its place. For now, just gotta make do with this. Senior White let out a hollow laugh, hoping that fellow Daoist Song Shuhang wouldn't sense anything odd, would he? Should be able to get away with this. My illusory art is after all of a pretty high standard. Hehehe tilde. After engraving the formation, Senior White felt kind of guilty. He held his own laptop and went back to the room Song Shuhang prepared for him on the 3rd floor. However, after returning to the 3rd floor, he saw the color TV in his room. He couldn't control it any longer, his fingers started wriggling. 3 minutes later, Senior White gritted his teeth and resolutely said, "It's okay, disassembling 1 or disassembling 2 is the same. At most, by then I will buy a brand new set back." Thereafter, with a face filled with happiness, he started disassembling the color TV. ******. Meanwhile, Song Shuhang was already sleeping soundly. Because he had used too much of his mental energy, he slept exceptionally well. A small black dot suddenly appeared on the top of the head of the fast asleep Song Shuhang. This black dot quickly condensed and transformed into a black spiritual mass, giving off a strong aura of resentment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 169, a slash capable of burning the heavens. Chapter 169, a slash capable of burning the heavens. Translator, Godbrandy Editor, Karisu. Hate tilde. Even if I don't enter the cycle of reincarnation, remaining a lowly ghost for eternity, I will still obtain revenge. A house bred from a black spiritual mass. At the same time, its body enlarged as if someone had blown air into it. It quickly reached half the height of a person from that of a ping-pong ball. If one were to look at it carefully, they would notice that it vaguely resembled that altar master who had died in Song Shuhang's hands. However, only half of its features resembled that of altar master. This resentful spirit was born when the dying altar master had cursed Song Shuhang. However, Song Shuhang himself had already destroyed this resentful spirit once, and afterward, it was swallowed several times by the Pekingese Dudu. And yet, the curse hadn't disappeared. Right now, the Pekingese Dudu wasn't by his side. And since he had consumed too much mental energy, Song Shuhang couldn't even use a small technique to stay on alert. The resentful spirit born from the curse slowly took shape. After grinning fiendishly, it stretched its sharp, ghastly claws and ruthlessly aimed at Song Shuhang's throat. If these claws were to hit him, they would surely leave 5 bloody holes in the latter's throat. Just when its sharp nails were about to prick Song Shuhang's skin, a pure white spiritual mass shot out of his heart aperture. It was the ghost spirit with a golden shield he had just contracted. The pure white ghost spirit was only fist-sized, while the black resentful spirit had already reached half the height of a person. However, the ghost spirit wasn't scared in the slightest. It suddenly opened its mouth and took a deep breath. At this point, a strange thing happened. The ghost spirit resembled a black hole, and just like the golden red good that could swallow people, it swallowed down the black resentful spirit. 1. Burp tilde. The ghost spirit burped satisfied, and even its body got slightly bigger. Then, after a yawn, it returned to Song Shuhang's heart aperture. The fast asleep Song Shuhang smacked his lips. It seemed he was having a good dream. He rolled over and kept sleeping soundly. ******. The dream was indeed beautiful. This time, Song Shuhang dreamt of being a person from ancient times. He had a pure and innocent childhood, and his parents were kind. However, when he was 6, he was afflicted by a strange and incurable disease. His father brought him along and searched everywhere for a cure, but it was all for naught. At last, his parents decided to send him off to an old and worn-out Daoist temple a few dozen kilometers away from their home, leaving him in the care of a Daoist priest with a fiery red robe. This Daoist priest with a fiery robe wasn't an average man. He was an immortal living among mortals. In the dream, Song Shuhang started to live with the Daoist priest. Every day, he would drink a bitter medicinal liquid, and afterward, he would practice a strange fist technique. After 2 years, he had already recovered from his illness and grasped a small amount of power that didn't belong to the mortal world. Then, on a day 2 years and 3 months later, the Daoist priest brought him under a gigantic old tree that was high enough to pierce the clouds. My name is Scarlet Heaven, and the two of us were predestined to meet. Look carefully. The Daoist priest faintly smiled. Then, he broke a branch of the big tree and started to demonstrate a series of movements while standing in place. He muttered the incantation of the technique with his mouth. It should have been a peerless sword technique. However, Song Shuhang wasn't able to understand it. Because, when he started to demonstrate the technique, the form of the Daoist priest got more and more blurry. And, from time to time, some parts would be suddenly skipped. Both the incantation and the sword technique were explained in a different language. It was an alien language to Song Shuhang. But the Heap in the dream could see and listen very well. After finishing his demonstration, the Daoist priest with the fiery red robe said, "How much of it did you remember?" "Around 90%. The Heap in the dream replied. "Not bad. This 90% should be enough for you to condense a golden core and step on the Great Way. But your future achievements will depend on your efforts." Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven smiled as he patted his head. In the dream, he laughed, somewhat embarrassed. He felt as if the Daoist priest wanted to leave him. After caressing his head, Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven squatted down in front of him. It seemed he wanted to tell him something. But at this time, the Daoist priest looked strangely toward the Heap in the dream. Song Shuhang could feel Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven's gaze. It was profound like the universe. It penetrated through the Heap in the dream, and after crossing space and time, it stared at the real Song Shuhang. Song Shuhang felt his body turn cold, as if his every secret was being seen through. So, it was like this. Interesting. Very interesting. Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven heartily laughed. Then, he stood up and picked the tree branch once again. Afterward, the Daoist priest changed the language he used and started his demonstration again. This time, the Heap in the dream couldn't understand anything. He wasn't familiar with this language. However, Song Shuhang could understand everything. My name is Scarlet Heaven. Back in the days, when I became a Daoist, I relied on a very common set of flaming saber techniques to build the foundation of my cultivation. And now, I'll pass down this flaming saber to you. Since it's a very common saber technique, I hope you won't hold a grudge toward this poor Daoist for being so stingy. At this time, Song Shuhang got the impression that Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven wasn't talking to the Heap in the dream, but was instead talking to the real him. There isn't much time. I'll demonstrate this technique only once. Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven continued to wave the tree branch in his hand. Using the branch as a blade, he made a slashing motion with his wrist. Immediately, Song Shuhang felt as if the world had started to burn. It seemed as if an inexhaustible flame had started to burn on the tree branch in the hand of the Daoist priest. There was nothing that couldn't be burnt by that flame, and it wouldn't be extinguished for eternity. When the slashing motion ended, the flames had engulfed the entire world. All the myriad different places of the world were completely burnt to ashes. Even the clouds of the high and mighty heaven were engulfed by those red flames. He didn't use the incantation of the saber technique, and he didn't use the appropriate posture either. He merely used a slash imbued with saber intent. This slash was the essence of the saber technique. When facing this slash, Song Shuhang felt his body becoming blazing hot, his mouth parched and his blood about to dry out. However, he understood many things. Even if he couldn't see Song Shuhang, Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven knew that he had comprehended most of this technique. He heartily laughed and waved his stretched hand. The tree branch in his hand was reduced to ashes. Even the towering tree behind his body was reduced to ashes. The Heap in the dream was dumbfounded. The Daoist priest with the fiery red robe lightly shouted before stepping toward the void. He flew through the sky without any external help and went higher and higher until he disappeared. He in the dream respectfully knelt on the ground. Afterward, he knocked his head on the ground 3 times. Soon after, the picture in the dream changed, and many years had passed by. He in the dream had grown up. At this time, he was carrying a blue short sword on his back and wore a Daoist robe that was similar to that of Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven. However, its color was green. A cultivator with a green Daoist robe, the loose cultivator Li Tiansu. The dream finished there. Song Shuhang opened his eyes. It was already dawn. ******. Early morning, 6:03 a.m. July 2nd, Tuesday. The sky was clear. Song Shuhang sat on the bed. Was it a dream? Just as he spoke, he noticed that his entire body was covered in sweat. If it wasn't a dream, then, was it the memory of that loose cultivator named Li Tiansu? Since he had already experienced something like this, Song Shuhang immediately understood what had happened. Li Tiansu, he should be the senior loose cultivator whose corpse flew till here when I was contracting the ghost spirit, leaving behind those 2 pieces of equipment, right? When Senior White asked that loose cultivator about his name, Song Shuhang heard the phrase loose cultivator Li Tiansu. However, why did he dream of being Li Tiansu? Was it due to the ghost spirit? It seemed that the ghost spirit had absorbed the energy left behind by the dying Li Tiansu, undergoing a strange mutation. So after he interlinked his mind with the ghost spirit, he saw that memory? When he was thinking, Song Shuhang lowered his head and saw that the ancient bronze ring was on his finger. It was one of the 2 pieces of equipment left behind by Li Tiansu after he had dissipated. The ring, does it mean that it wasn't due to the ghost spirit, but it was because the ring missed its previous owner? Therefore, it made me dream about him? Song Shuhang wondered aloud. When recalling the dream, Song Shuhang noticed that the flaming saber of Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven had left a deep impression on him. Scarlet Heaven said that his flaming saber technique was a very common technique in the world of cultivators. However, after recalling Scarlet Heaven / and those inextinguishable flames capable of burning down everything, heavens included, was it really just an ordinary flaming saber technique? That / was capable of burning even the heavens. Song Shuhang started to get restless. He needed to try out this flaming saber that Scarlet Heaven had passed down to him. With that, he would be able to discern if it was just a dream or if it was a fragment of Li Tiansu's memory. Song Shuhang quickly went toward the safe. After opening it, he took the mystical saber he had obtained from the sect master of the Moon Saber sect, Ba Qianjun. The name of this saber was Broken Tyrant and it was around 1 meter long. It was incredibly hard, and after experiencing the fires of the tribulation, it had undergone a strange transformation. After taking the saber, Song Shuhang went to the top floor, or the 5th floor. Having learnt from the experience of the 3-star fire-controlling fan, he didn't dare to act recklessly inside the room. Let's give it a try. There is no one here anyway. I'll pretend to be still inside the dream. Song Shuhang took a deep breath as he tried to recall Scarlet Heaven's appearance when he was demonstrating that flaming saber. He also started to spin the saber, and after the energy of qi and blood gushed out from the eye and heart apertures, he slashed down. It seemed imposing, and the posture was very cool. However, no flames appeared. Let alone flames, there wasn't even a spark. Ha ha, Song Shuhang bitterly smiled. Was it nothing but a dream? Or perhaps, this flaming saber could only be learnt after diligent practice? Whatever, every day I have some time I'll take out a bit of it and practice this flaming saber, Song Shuhang made up his mind. If he could create raging flames with his saber as Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven did, it would be really cool. Forget it, let's just cultivate for now. In the next few days, I even have to attend classes seriously. Song Shuhang started to do basic exercises. Then, after putting the treasured saber Broken Tyrant to one side, he started to practice the basic Buddhist fist technique and used the true self meditation scripture to redirect the flow of qi and blood toward his 3rd aperture, the nose aperture. Opening the nose aperture was more difficult than opening the eye aperture. Without any external aid, it would take at least 2 years. 1. TLZN, Golden Red Good is a treasure from Journey to the West. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 170, Walking Doo-Doo. Chapter 170, Walking Doo-Doo. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Karisu. An hour later, Song Shuhang stopped practicing. He felt that the results of today's practice were much better than before. Could it be because of the opening of the eye aperture that caused his body to become much stronger? But when he opened the heart aperture, the improvement was not as obvious as this. At this point, what Song Shuhang didn't know was that the ancient bronze ring on his finger had Spirit Gathering formation engraved on it. It could always keep his body refreshed at any given time, and at the same time allowed his practice to achieve better results. Alright, let's go to attend classes then. Song Shuhang picked up the treasured saber Broken Tyrant and prepared to go downstairs for a shower. When he arrived at the 3rd floor, he saw that Doo-Doo the Pekingese had returned and was currently squatting in front of the computer in high spirits. Senior White and Doo-Doo sat together with the same facial expression, searching earnestly for some information on the web. Song Shuhang greeted them. Good morning, Senior White. Doo-Doo, you're back. Morning to you, little friend Shuhang. Senior White lifted his head and smiled with a nod. Senior White today was a handsome mess as always, but for some reason, when he was looking at Song Shuhang, he seemed to be avoiding looking directly into his eyes. I came back long ago. This is for you. Doo-Doo did not lift his head up, but curled his tail and tossed something at Song Shuhang. Looking at the black thing flying in his direction, for some reason Song Shuhang's brain switched off for a moment. He subconsciously wielded his saber and slashed. Clash tilde the black item easily got cut in half, sufficient evidence to prove the sharpness of the treasured saber Broken Tyrant. A second later, Song Shuhang stared at the black item on the ground that just got cut in half and felt like crying as he said, "My single-lens reflex camera." The newly bought single-lens reflex camera, bought from the owner at the buying price under Venerable White's charm. He hadn't even used it once, now it got slashed into two because of himself. Doo-Doo lifted his head and glanced at Song Shuhang. Woof, you chopped it yourself, don't blame me, okay? Song Shuhang squatted and heartbrokenly held onto the halves of his single-lens reflex camera. It was cut in half right in the middle. There was no way of salvaging or repairing it. Right, Woof, I should remind you that inside the camera there's the video of the dude with a delicate face and a tough build. You'd better check if the memory card within the camera is intact. If it isn't, I won't take it again for you, Doo-Doo continued. Song Shuhang could only silently take the memory card out from the single-lens reflex camera. Fortunately, it was not destroyed. Heaving a sigh, he could only blame his brain for switching off today. Song Shuhang asked, as expected, there was a problem with him? Woof, it's the Limitless Demon Sect. They want to steal the Blood God Crystal from you. However, it's just a small fry doing things on his own. For the specifics, watch the video and you'll know, replied Doo-Doo. It really was the Limitless Demon Sect. How is his ability? Asked Song Shuhang. First stage 5 Aperture's realm, not long before he jumps through the Dragon Gate, Doo-Doo casually replied. After giving it some thought, Song Shuhang asked, can I beat him? Yeah, if it is a head-on confrontation, with your talismans, coupled with the magic of the ancient bronze ring on your finger, you do stand a chance against him. However, if he sneak attacks you, you should have no chance to defend yourself, answered Doo-Doo. If that's the case, aren't I in an extremely dangerous situation right now? Especially since the opponent could come and catch him anytime and anywhere. Song Shuhang made a hollow laugh. Doo-Doo, do you want to take a walk today? What? You want to walk me today? Doo-Doo raised his head and looked at Song Shuhang. Okay then, since today I'm in the mood for it, I shall let you take me for a walk. While talking, he was hitting on the keys on the keyboard, finishing off a mini-boss, and bade goodbye to his online wife. Wait for me, I'm gonna change my outfit, so you can walk me better. Doo-Doo switched his laptop off and hurriedly ran inside the house. Song Shuhang looked at Venerable White and asked, Senior White, I gotta go to attend my classes in a while, Do you have any plans? Venerable White laughed. I still have something on in the morning. I got a phone call earlier from the sub-district office, asking me if we have any floating residents here. 1. They are currently doing some registrations, and if there are any floating residents, they need to apply for a temporary residence permit, so I might as well take the chance to make one. Later, I gotta get my picture taken and complete the registration. Ooh, it's time to settle temporary residence permit again. Song Shuhang nodded and said, then Dudu and I shall go ahead. Senior White, if you have any problems, feel free to contact me. Senior White nodded silently, with his gaze secretly shifting to the big box behind him. Inside it were his war trophies from the previous night's struggle, one large display TV, one water dispenser, two stereo speakers, one electric rice cooker, one induction cooker. Luckily, he hadn't gotten caught by little friend Song Shuhang. After little friend Song Shuhang left, he would have to use the disposable flying sword 00 for addition to send them to space. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. At 7:30 a.m., Song Shuhang and Dudu left home. Dudu put on a dog collar on his own, transforming into his small Pekingese form. He had a "This dog majesty shall reward you" expression as he was passing the leash to Song Shuhang. He was really walking the dog? Song Shuhang had initially thought that Dudu would get out of the house with him at most. He did not expect that he would actually wear the collar in a physical form that ordinary human beings could see with the naked eye. This was not a good thing, even though Jiangnan College Town was rather open-minded and the academic advisors living on campus could keep dogs and cats as pets, students definitely could not keep them. Forget it, let's just take a walk and see how it goes. If it is really not possible, then I'll say that it's some tutor's pet and that I am in charge of bringing it out for a walk. Song Shuhang thought for a bit, then took Dudu out. In the first half of the journey, Dudu was rather passive, and Song Shuhang was indeed walking it, not the other way round. However, when they were about to arrive at Jiangnan College Town, Dudu's eyes suddenly lit up, and he ran as fast as he could. Dudu was a powerful monster dog. Once he started running, how would Song Shuhang have any strength to resist? He could only get dragged around by Dudu's wild dash, suffering but unable to speak up. Dudu, where are you running towards? Song Shuhang laughed bitterly. Woof woof, I want to look for something fun. I am going to bring you to play first. Laughed Dudu using a voice only Song Shuhang could hear. This was the power of sound transmission technique. Just like that, a cute little Pekingese was running wildly, dragging a young student behind it. Soon enough, Dudu found the thing he called fun. Outside Jiangnan College Town, there was a very long river that flowed through the whole Jiangnan College Town. Under the care of several generations, the river was presently crystal clear, both its banks full of fragrant, green grass. At this time, there was an English old man with a stern face and neatly combed hair walking leisurely on the grass, holding onto a leash with a huge German shepherd on its other end. This was the English professor of Song Shuhang's class, Professor Smith. Previously, he had a cute pet dog, however, because Softfeather executed a magic technique, it caused that dog to bite the professor. Thereafter, upon being discharged from the hospital, the first thing that strict professor did was to send the pet dog to the hot pot restaurant where it became a dog meat hot pot. And so, that huge German shepherd became Professor Smith's new pet. Dudu dragged Song Shuhang, running straight in the direction of Professor Smith. Song Shuhang realized that he could not avoid it, so all he could do was to smile and say, "Good morning, Professor Smith." The professor turned his head towards Song Shuhang, smiled and nodded, saying, "Good morning." He could not recognize Song Shuhang. There were so many Asian students, in his eyes, all of them looked pretty similar. Hence, the people he could remember were not many. Just as Song Shuhang wanted to drag Dudu away, Dudu dragged him behind that large German shepherd instead. Woof, woof. Dudu wagged his tail, charging and barking ferociously at the big German shepherd. The big dog suspiciously lowered its head, looking at Dudu with doubtful eyes. Woof woof. Dudu continued to bark loudly, turning his body and facing the large German shepherd, shaking his head and bite me, you mongrel." Song Shuhang heard Dudu's voice. But there was probably a communication barrier with that German Shepherd. After all, it continued to wear a confused expression on its face. Song Shuhang smiled bitterly at Professor Smith in embarrassment, and tugged on the dog leash with all his strength. "Dudu, stop making a fuss, we gotta go." Professor Smith laughed and similarly tugged on his German Shepherd's leash as he prepared to leave. But at this moment, Dudu suddenly leapt, reached out with his paws and slapped the big German Shepherd's muzzle. Smack! The big German Shepherd could not dodge in time, and, just like that, it got a slap into its canine face. Growall! The little guy right before its eyes actually dared to touch it. The big giant shepherd wasn't some sort of a kind dog. It growled ferociously and pounced towards Dudu. The corners of Professor Smith's mouth twitched as he looked at Song Shuhang. The little dog of this student actually had such huge guts. Song Shuhang wished he could do a facepalm and hide in a crevice on the ground. Was bringing Dudu out the right decision at all? At this time, the two men lost control over their dogs. Dudu and the big German Shepherd were already in a huge fight. There was nothing Song Shuhang could do about Dudu. At the same time, there was also nothing the professor could do about his angry German Shepherd. If worst comes to worst, I'll compensate this student a little money. A pure breed Pekingese is probably worth only a couple thousand RMB at most, Professor Smith thought to himself. Continuous barks were issued one after another, dog fur soared all over in the air. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. A minute later, the big German Shepherd shed quite an amount of fur, lying on the ground with dull eyes, lifelessly gazing at the small Pekingese that was stepping on it. The little Pekingese's expression was one full of joy. It turned around and looked at Song Shuhang. Woof 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 tilde tilde? Song Shuhang wished he could facepalm. You are a monster dog. You could even chase a fourth-stage demon monarch Anji who was able to ride a flying sword, causing him to flee to the ends of the earth. What is there to be proud about winning against an ordinary German Shepherd, huh? Professor Smith forcefully rubbed his own eyes. Is it that I am old, so my eyes are failing me? The one that collapsed to the ground panting was my big black? And the one was that small Pekingese? Just how does it make sense? Seeing that Song Shuhang had no intention to compliment him, Dudu was not happy. He wagged his tail, turned his body, and ran swiftly towards Jiangnan College Town. Dudu, wait for me tilde, Song Shuhang called out. He quickly said to Professor Smith, Professor, I am sorry, I gotta go chase after Dudu. Go ahead, said Professor Smith, smiling. After waiting for Song Shuhang and little Dudu to run quite a distance, the professor squatted next to his big black German Shepherd, carefully examining the situation. The fur on the ground was all big blacks. That Pekingese surprisingly did not shed a single hair. The corners of Big Black's mouth were bloody, and he suffered physical injuries on his body as well, but none of them were a result of being bitten. They were all inflicted by the Pekingese's claws. Chinese Pekingese was that impressive, huh? Professor Smith pinched his chin. Should I try raising a Pekingese instead and see how it goes? 1. TL Den. Floating residence or population refers to people who reside in a given population for a certain of time but are not considered part of the official census count, aka they are not officially registered as a resident in that area. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 171, Look at me beating up 6 people alone. Chapter 171, Look at me beating up 6 people alone. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Karisu. Song Shuhang was listening intently to his morning class. Dudu transformed into the monster beast form that was invisible to human beings and spent most of the time inside his desk's drawer, playing games on a mobile. While listening, Song Shuhang glanced down and happened to see Dudu leaving negative reviews on an online shopping site, such as, Black-hearted seller, poor evaluation. Didn't you say it was chicken-flavored? I had already finished half a packet and it didn't taste like chicken at all. Liar. Did your conscience get eaten by pigs? Song Shuhang could not stop his cold sweat from breaking out even if he wanted to. Later, when the shop owner sees the bad evaluation, would he have a WTF reaction or a WTF reaction? Maybe he would be like this: WTF is this, this was a WTF reaction. Or maybe he would be like this: WTF, customer. That was dog food, and you ate a bag of it. Are you AF asterisk king? Or something? This was also a WTF reaction. Come to think of it, no wonder Dudu hadn't asked me to buy anything these days. So it was because he learned how to shop online? Then, who was the person who signed the delivery? Don't tell me Dudu went to sign it himself? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Generally speaking, Song Shuhang felt that Dudu wasn't as troublesome as described by the seniors in the chat group. He just liked to fool around. Other than that, as long as you gave him something fancy to busy himself with, Dudu would be able to play with it for a long time. Oh right, he was pretty cute most of the time, but that was apart from going online to scold True Monarch Yellow Mountain every day. Nevertheless, ever since Dudu came to his house, the lofty image of the group leader, True Monarch Yellow Mountain, in Song Shuhang's heart was like a waterfall, suffering exponential descent. After all, he spent his days hearing Dudu scream "Stupid Yellow Mountain" all the time, thus Song Shuhang inevitably ended up considering Stupid Yellow Mountain as his true name. Time passed. It was past 10 a.m., and both of his morning classes finished peacefully. He had no afternoon classes. Tubo casually asked, "Do you guys want to go back to the dorm to review a bit? After all, the exam's already tomorrow." The final exams were approaching. In order not to fail and have to retake his exams, he had to work harder. There was no such thing as wasted effort, and even if one's performance wouldn't be stellar, it would at least improve a bit with some preparations. Usually, there'd be at least 1 or 2 days for students to review on their own before finals, but this year, the schedule has been moved forward and the exam came right after the semester's last classes. "I made plans with Yari to review the notes together. We won't be joining you guys." Jiao Mumu pushed his glasses and heartlessly abandoned his single roommates. Tubo looked miserably towards Li Younger at once. "Don't look at me like that, you look really disgusting. At most, you can come over to my place today, and if you have anything you're unsure about, you can ask me," said Li Younger coldly. Tubo wasn't even a pretty girl, why was he pretending to be cute? "What about Shuhang? Do you want to study together?" Tubo laughed. "I'll see if I have the time. If I am free tonight, I'll head over to Li Younger's place," answered Song Shuhang after giving it some thought. He wanted to make sure that Senior White and Dudu were doing fine before he left. Otherwise, when he went home one day, he might discover that the appliances and other stuff in the house had to be replaced. At the side, Miss Lu Fei was clenching her fists. She'd initially wanted to invite Shuhang to review together in the girls' dorm. The AC in the dorm was broken and they still do not know when the repairman would come to fix it. Now that Tubo kinda messed things up, she did not have the gall to ask him. Although Song Shuhang made a contract with the ghost spirit, he still carried the spirit binding ice bead with him. Its cooling effect had not changed, not to mention when it still had the ghost spirit inside. Just the spirit binding ice bead itself was a valuable item. Come to think of it, Miss Softfeather was pretty rich to be able to throw it away. "Want to go back together?" Song Shuhang asked Miss Lu Fei. He wanted to take all his books from the dorm back to Medicine Master's multi-story building. Exams were approaching after all, even if it was just a little, reviewing was still a must. "Sure," replied Lu Fei happily. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. On another side, Cultivator Sunflower's face was tensed up. Stressed by a mountain of books, has just finished today's classes. Is everyone ready? Beside him, there were 6 cold-faced men decked in black, emitting a strong murderous aura. They were the underlings of Salter Master from the neighboring Luoxin Street area. Cultivator Sunflower used all sorts of means to recruit them for today's action. "Very well, then prepare to take action," Cultivator Sunflower said in a deep voice. "Contact that person from the sub-district office, tell her to stall that cultivator named a White for as long as possible when she goes there to take care of his application." In the modern society, there were many ways to stall a person. "We shall attack that stressed by a mountain of books." Remember, we have to be fast. Or else, if we got caught by that cultivator at white, we would be done for. We only have one chance, go. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Song Shuhang walked Lu Fei to the dorm and retrieved all his notes and materials for revision from his own dorm, then headed towards Medicine Master's multi-storied building. Dudu was lying on his shoulders, playing a game on his cell phone. As he was passing through a narrow path, Song Shuhang's footsteps suddenly paused. Although this path was narrow, there was usually quite a number of pedestrians walking through it. But right now, there was not a single soul in sight. You are quite vigilant, praised Dudu. How many opponents are there? Song Shuhang asked. He knew that someone was planning to make their move against him. There's a total of 7 people. 5 of them are on pretty much the same level as you, with similar capabilities, mainly first stage with 1 or 2 apertures open. One of them is a first stage 3 apertures cultivator. The last one should be that muscular pretty-faced dude who was tailing you the other day, currently at first stage 5 apertures. He is about to jump through the dragon gate. But that dude is hiding behind the rest, he thinks I can't see him. Hee. Dudu reported the number of people the opponent had, as well as their exact positions, with familiarity that could be normally expected of someone who introduced their family heirlooms. Even though those people hid their aura, in Dudu's eyes, they were as obvious as bright stars on the night sky. Song Shuhang checked the equipment on his body. A stinking pill. A sword talisman. 3 armor talismans. 8 evil-destroying talismans. Last but not least, an ancient bronze ring whose effects he did not know yet. Dudu, will you help me? Asked Song Shuhang. Of course. When you're covered in severe injuries and about to die, I will drag you out of here. Don't worry. Replied Dudu forthrightly. All right, suits me fine, replied Song Shuhang with a laugh. He tossed his satchel aside and took the initiative to enter the area where Cultivator Sunflower was waiting in ambush. Dudu jumped lightly off his shoulder and hid on one side. Come out, Song Shuhang warmed up by stretching his body. The 6 of you, I can see every single one of you clearly. You don't need to hide anymore. He purposely decreased the number by 1 to make Cultivator Sunflower believe that his cover did not get blown. Upon Song Shuhang's words, 6 figures leapt into view from all directions. They grasped identical knives without handles in their hands, striking towards Song Shuhang from tricky angles. Knives without handles, could they be underlings of Altar Master? Song Shuhang thought to himself. At this time, if he had enough mental energy to activate the eye aperture's innate skill expert vision, it would have been really awesome. Unfortunately, his chi and blood and mental energy would be completely exhausted. At least he should wait for himself to open a minimum of another 2 apertures, then this eye aperture innate skill would come to good use. Hence, Song Shuhang chose to use an armor talisman. The armor talisman could block all attacks from cultivators of 3rd stage and below, even Altar Master would not be able to break its defense. Even if all of those 6 busted a gut to attack him, they would not be able to harm him at all. Ding 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 ding, 6 handleless knives stabbed at Song Shuhang's body, emitting a series of sparks. The 6 attackers were astonished. Even though the sharp knives kept stabbing and pricking, they could not break through Song Shuhang's defense. Their speed isn't that fast, Song Shuhang thought. After opening the eye aperture, as long as he concentrated, he could see every action of these cultivators with only 2, 3 apertures open clearly. This was the influence of having a good, much superior to theirs, in fact, foundation establishment technique. Altar Master himself was a loose ghost cultivator. He gathered all the foundation establishment techniques and passed them on to his underlings for them to practice, but they were the most ordinary out of all the ordinary techniques within the cultivation world. However, the basic Buddhist fist technique and true self-meditation scripture in Song Shuhang's possession were both pretty decent foundation establishment techniques, even in the eyes of the seniors in the 9 provinces number 1 group. The difference in both sides' abilities could be easily discerned. Basic fist, 2. As Song Shuhang started chanting the formula, the qi and blood within the heart and eye apertures started surging, together with the spiritual qi of the world. Fists blasted out, just like meteors. In an instant, nearly 40 fists shot out, and each of the altar master's subordinates suffered at least several hits on his body. They did not have any defensive treasures on their bodies. After receiving Song Shuhang's attack head-on, the 6 of them flew and hit against the nearby wall, vomiting blood from their mouths. Apart from that first stage 3 apertures fellow who managed to dodge the attack in the crucial moment, the other 5 remained motionless on the ground. It was unknown whether they were still alive or not. Song Shuhang clenched his fist and realized that he liked this feeling, be it with fists or weapons. It didn't matter how others tried to break through his defenses, for failure was all that awaited them. On the other hand, he just had to use one punch and they'd be on the verge of death. Perhaps he could use this kind of a combat style in the future? As soon as this idea flashed past his mind, Song Shuhang used his right foot and firmly stomped on the ground. Intending to take this chance when his opponent was already injured, he used all his strength to rush at that first stage 3 apertures cultivator and quickly finish him off. Basic Fist 1. Powerful like a cannon, this was Song Shuhang's strongest punch. That first stage 3 apertures cultivator seemed to have considerable battle experience. It was only because he was shocked by Song Shuhang's outrageously strong defense that he had failed to dodge the previous attack. Twisting his body in an odd way was all it took for him to avoid Song Shuhang's long barrage of punches. At the same time, 8 knives without handles suddenly appeared in between his 10 fingers, and they shot toward Song Shuhang. Ding 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 tilde as a sequence of striking sounds was heard, knives stabbed toward Song Shuhang's body once more, exploding in a series of sparks as they were repelled by the power of the armor talisman. At this time, Song Shuhang laughed. That originally cannon-like fist actually became as nimble as a snake and exploded squarely against that first stage 3 apertures cultivator's chest. The opponent started vomiting blood. The heart protective mirror on his chest got smashed into pieces by Song Shuhang. However, the fist's heavy power still ended up piercing his body, causing him to be sent flying. Although I don't have enough battle experience, I had watched quite a number of wuxia movies since I was a child, Song Shuhang thought to himself delightedly. In fact, this was not as awesome as the stuff depicted in the wuxia movies, which Song Shuhang watched. It was completely due to the fact that his enemies failed to gather sufficient intelligence and additionally underestimated him. In their information report, Song Shuhang was just a lucky chap who met an expert and received medicine pills and cultivation techniques, as well as someone who just opened his heart aperture not long ago. All in all, a newbie without much battle experience. Weren't they supposed to beat him hands down? They had never expected that Song Shuhang had already opened 2 apertures consecutively, and that he was equipped with such a tyrannically strong talisman. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 172, Burning Saber. Chapter 172, Burning Saber. Translator, Godbrandy Editor, Karisu. Moreover, Song Shuhang's basic Buddhist fist technique wasn't weak. So, it was only natural that Altar Master's subordinates were now lying on the ground. Song Shuhang let out a sigh. He pretended to let down his guard to draw out the last ambusher. The hidden cultivator Sunflower sneered. He suddenly stood up and instantly appeared behind Song Shuhang. His big body was agile like a feline's. Then, he held a pointed rod with both his hands as he thrust it toward Song Shuhang's. Ding! The barrier of the armor talisman lit up once again, blocking Cultivator Sunflower's attack. He came out. Song Shuhang didn't hesitate and took a step back. Cultivator Sunflower was disappointed at failing his attempt. He jumped backward. Then, he used his spiritual pressure and said in a grave tone to Song Shuhang, "Your resistance is futile, stressed by a mountain of books. You have no chance of winning against me. Were you sent here by young Master Hai?" Song Shuhang said indifferently. At the same time, he shot a look at the armor talisman, protecting his body. It had almost run out of its power. Another attack from Cultivator Sunflower, and it would break. He was worthily a disciple of a great sect like the Limitless Demon Sect. That attack with the rod just now was comparable to that of a normal cultivator of the second stage. He. You can think whatever you want, but don't even think of trying to buy time. I already sent someone to stall the senior that was with you last time. Just obediently accept your fate. Cultivator Sunflower slightly bent his body and activated a low-rank magical treasure. Green Breeze Speed Boost. The surface of his body had been enveloped by a pale ring of green air. This increased his speed several times. Then, his silhouette immediately disappeared and reappeared next to Song Shuhang, trying to stab his abdomen with the pointed rod. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I need you alive. His speed was just too fast. Song Shuhang didn't even have time to avoid it. Ding! The barrier of the armor talisman lit up once again and blocked Cultivator Sunflower's attack. Song Shuhang took advantage of this opportunity and put some distance between them with a somersault. At the same time, the remaining energy of the armor talisman was depleted. He was just too fast. Without the sword talisman, he would have no chance of winning. Dudu! Song Shuhang shouted. It was time for Dudu to show his might. Waha! I already knew that you took me out for a walk this morning just because you needed my help. Don't worry, I've made the necessary preparations. I went ahead and took your saber. Catch it, no need to thank me. Dudu used a voice transmission technique so that only Song Shuhang would hear him. At the same time, he raised his paw and threw a long black saber toward Song Shuhang. It steadily fell into his hands. It was the treasured saber Broken Tyrant. Song Shuhang held the treasured saber and stood there dumbfounded. What was the point of giving him the saber? The only technique he knew was the basic Buddhist fist technique. He knew nothing about saber techniques. Was this Dudu's retaliation after Song Shuhang didn't praise him when the former defeated that German shepherd early in the morning? However, there was no time to think about that. Cultivator Sunflower's body flashed once again. He spun the pointed rod in his hand and used it as an electric drill to thrust toward Song Shuhang. If this rod were to stab someone, they would surely be pierced from side to side. Right now, the armor talisman protecting his body had already lost its power. And since he didn't have a second treasure to preserve his life, he absolutely couldn't let the rod touch him. Song Shuhang quickly raised his saber, welcoming Cultivator Sunflower's ruthless attack. Bang! The rod in Cultivator Sunflower's hands was divided in two. Moreover, the strength of the saber didn't reduce in the slightest. It kept going forward, aiming at Cultivator Sunflower's arm. The treasured saber Broken Tyrant was the peerless treasure of the Moon Saber sect and could cut the body of a cultivator of the fourth stage. The rod used by Cultivator Sunflower was only made of fine steel. It obviously wouldn't be able to block the saber. Cultivator Sunflower quickly retreated, evading the attack aimed at his arm. And then, just as he looked at the treasured saber in Song Shuhang's hand, a hint of greed flashed through his eyes. If he could obtain this saber, his strength would increase by a large margin. Wait, there is something wrong. Where the hell did this saber come from? When he previously attacked, this saber appeared in stressed by a mountain of books hand out of thin air. Cultivator Sunflower couldn't see Dudu. He racked his brain and thought of a possibility. Was that senior cultivator named White hiding nearby? Did the member of the sub-district office in charge of making his temporary residence permit fail to delay him? If that cultivator named White was really here, he wouldn't even have the chance of escaping. I have no choice, Cultivator Sunflower thought. It didn't matter if the senior cultivator named White was here or not. Only by capturing stressed by a mountain of books would he have a chance to come out of this alive. It took a long time to describe, but all of this actually happened in an instant. Cultivator Sunflower resolutely threw away the part of the pointed rod that was still in his hands. Then, both his hands made a grabbing motion. One was aimed at Song Shuhang, the other was trying to snatch away his saber. Song Shuhang didn't back down. He tightly grabbed Broken Tyrant and swung the saber madly in Cultivator Sunflower's direction. He hadn't learned any saber technique. Therefore, he could only aim at his face and thigh in a random slash. Cultivator Sunflower didn't dare to block this sharp saber with his bare hands. Therefore, for the time being, he decided to aim at Song Shuhang alone. At this time, Dudu's voice echoed once again in his ears. "Shuhang, stop randomly swinging the saber. Use a saber technique." "I don't know any saber technique." Song Shuhang roared inwardly. If he knew a saber technique, he would have used it already. After a while, Cultivator Sunflower had yet to see Song Shuhang. This caused him to become somewhat anxious. It won't do. I can't keep wasting time. He made up his mind and decided to use his low-rank magical treasure once again. Green Breeze Speed Boost. There was a huge disparity in speed between someone that had opened 2 apertures and someone that had opened 5. And if we add that speed boost on top of it, Cultivator Sunflower's speed was so fast that Song Shuhang couldn't even react to it. However, this technique put a very big strain on the user's body. Cultivator Sunflower, who had a body that far exceeded a cultivator of the same rank, could use it twice a day at most. Therefore, this was his last chance. Cultivator Sunflower took a step, and his body disappeared. When he reappeared, he was behind Song Shuhang. "You're mine!" Cultivator Sunflower rejoiced in his heart. He aimed at the saber in Song Shuhang's hand with one hand, and at the latter's throat with another. Innate skill of the eye aperture, expert sight. When Cultivator Sunflower used the speed boost, Song Shuhang promptly used the innate skill of the eye aperture. He could clearly see Cultivator Sunflower moving and arriving behind him. However, even if his eyes could see it, it didn't mean that his body could keep up with it. What should I do? Song Shuhang racked his brain, trying to think of something. And just as he was seeing Cultivator Sunflower's palm getting closer and closer, he recalled something. Raging flames, and a single slash capable of burning down the heavens. He turned over his wrist and spun the saber. The remaining chi and blood in his eye and heart apertures exploded. The ancient bronze ring on his finger shone slightly, and the formation within it activated. Swish tilde the entire saber caught fire. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 173, Dudu's 2 Seconds of Glory. Chapter 173, Dudu's 2 Seconds of Glory. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Karisu. Flames raged on the blade, their momentum ferocious and threatening. However, these flames were not ignited by Song Shuhang. The flaming saber technique passed on by Daoist priest Scarlet Heaven in the dream might look simple and unimpressive, but in reality, it was a saber that embodied the concepts of great principles are of ultimate simplicity. With just one attack, this saber was sufficient to incinerate all the creation in this world, with no exceptions. Even if Song Shuhang had 100 times his actual talent, he wouldn't be able to learn it just by seeing and practicing it once. Moreover, before this, he had never laid his hands on any saber technique. The most he did was mindlessly use the treasured saber Broken Tyrant to cleave and slash. Additionally, even if he wanted to be able to ignite flames on the saber, he had to at least reach the second stage for his chi and blood energy to become true chi first. At this moment, the flames on his saber could only appear because of the ancient bronze ring on his finger. The ring contained a second stage fire magic flame saber. This was a fire magic added by the ring's original owner, Li Tiansu. As a matter of fact, an ordinary flaming saber technique would not have been able to raise the combat effectiveness of Li Tiansu, who had already condensed his golden core. The reason why he kept this saber technique was in remembrance of his benefactor Scarlet Heaven, and also a kind of symbol of his aspiration. Originally, before Scarlet Heaven and Li Tiansu parted, the former suddenly used a branch in place of a saber and cleaved with the flaming saber technique. In an instant, the burning flames burned the entire towering, huge tree into nothing but charcoal. This sight greatly impacted and shook Li Tiansu's heart. As Li Tiansu's strength and abilities gradually increased, he wanted to look for a way to use this flaming saber technique as an offensive spell by attaching it to the bronze ring. As long as the ring's owner assumed the stance for flaming saber technique, it would activate the magic within the ancient bronze ring, allowing him to execute the flaming saber technique. Previously, when Song Shuhang turned his body with the saber, he was actually in the stance that would activate the flaming saber technique. Additionally, when the qi and blood energy within the heart aperture and the eye aperture were seething, another condition to activate the magic within the ancient bronze ring was fulfilled. Even though it didn't have the same immense power as that scarlet heaven Song Shuhang had seen in the dream, the flames on the saber were certainly capable of dealing significant damage like that of an attack made by a second-stage cultivator. The flames on the saber turned into heat waves and headed for the enemy. Cultivator Sunflower could feel the heat waves charging towards him, but he had nowhere to hide. The green breeze speed booster he activated made him too fast, thus he was unable to stop his movement towards the waves even if he wanted to. As they say, exceeding the speed limit can be dangerous. Just like that, he, who lost control of his body's momentum, ended up smashing into the incoming flaming waves of heat. Within the flames, a sharp saber light flashed. Cultivator Sunflower's huge body got cut in half, and was mercilessly consumed by the flames thereafter. It was over? Shuhang had a dizzy spell. He had used simply too much of mental energy. At this time, Dudu suddenly appeared next to Cultivator Sunflower's body, reached out his paws, and lightly tapped it. 2 small porcelain vases and a locket-shaped protective talisman got taken by Dudu. After that, Cultivator Sunflower's stocky figure got entirely consumed by the flames of the flaming saber technique, leaving none of his remains behind. Dudu's eyes smiled as he tossed these 3 things to Song Shuhang. For you. Spoils of war. Would be a pity if they got turned to ashes. The small porcelain vase contained qi and blood pills of a pretty decent quality. As for that protective talisman, it was the low-quality magic treasure Green Breeze Speed Boost used by Cultivator Sunflower in the battle previously. If used well, it could produce extraordinary effects. Song Shuhang sat down on the ground and accepted all 3 items as he panted heavily. The innate skill of the eye aperture had almost fully depleted his mental energy, and at the end, he had even activated the flaming saber technique within the bronze ring. This time he had really squeezed every bit of his strength out. Ha! Dudu, let's go back? Song Shuhang smiled at Dudu. At this time, a figure suddenly stood up in a corner gradually, and said, "Ha ha ha ha, such an interesting battle." It was a first stage 2 aperture's underling of Altar Master who'd previously received hits from Song Shuhang's basic Buddhist fist technique too, and collapsed to the ground. This guy had probably used some sort of defense measure, which was why he was not too heavily injured. It's just that he continued to play dead on the ground until Cultivator Sunflower was dead and Song Shuhang had exhausted all his strength before standing up and appearing before him. Now, he grabbed 2 knives with no handles and smiled grimly at Song Shuhang. A huge opportunity was right before his eyes. I just have to cripple the 4 limbs of a stressed by a mountain of books and bring him to the limitless demon sect. Then, I would have a chance to join them. By then, my cultivation would be able to make even greater strides forward. Who knows, I might even have the chance to become stronger than Altar Master. Staring at the Altar Master's underling, Song Shuhang silently heaved a sigh. As expected, I do not have enough experience. Next time, I will carefully take note of every single fallen enemy. The Altar Master's underling laughed. Too bad, there won't be a next time. Upon saying that, 4 knives were thrown at Song Shuhang in an attempt to cripple his limbs. Experience ought to be built up gradually, you just have to be more careful next time. That was Dudu's voice. Following that, Dudu elegantly stepped forward, covering Song Shuhang as he revealed his 5-meter big monster form he had just transformed into. Ding 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 ding. Sharp knives hit his body, but even the fur was unscathed. It was just like dust in the air falling onto someone's body, they wouldn't even feel it. As a gentle breeze passed by, the big-sized Dudu looked very awe-inspiring at this moment. Altar Master's underling opened his eyes wide and looked fearfully at the 5-meter-long big Pekingese. This is a monster beast. Why would a monster beast appear here? However, he didn't have the time to think about it. Dudu opened his mouth and a ball of green demon fire spurted on the man's body, directly burning him to death. None of the other 5 that were collapsed on the ground were spared either. Dudu rewarded them each with a ball of green demon fire, destroying their corpses entirely. Little did I expect that, ultimately, I still needed Dudu's help. Luckily, I brought him out with me. Song Shuhang thought to himself. Let's go home. Dudu grabbed Song Shuhang and his satchel, and gently placed him onto his back. He leapt lightly and soared into the sky. Demonic mist shrouded both of them, concealing them. Dudu was running in midair, his soft fur allowed Song Shuhang to sink his body in it. Song Shuhang lay weakly on Dudu's back. Only now that I'm lying completely on Dudu's back did I realize that Dudu's body is very soft and comfortable. Song Shuhang laughed while rubbing against Dudu's back. Even if it was a more comfortable or a softer big bed, they wouldn't be comparable to Dudu's comfortable back. Dudu was silent for a moment, then said, I'm telling you first, I am male. If you wish to be like the male leads in movies and TV series, engaging in some human-monster love relationship, I am not a suitable target for you. Why don't I introduce you to some cat chicks? I won't introduce any dog chicks to you, lest you harm my kind. Song Shuhang. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 174, Penniless Thief Sects Young Mistress Candy. Chapter 174, Penniless Thief Sects Young Mistress Candy. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Karisu. Dudu must have been watching too many unhealthy movies recently. Just as Song Shuhang was about to compose a 800-word essay denouncing Dudu in his mind, the phone in his pocket rang. When he looked at it, it was the chat group founder, True Monarch Yellow Mountain, calling him. Song Shuhang picked it up and said, Senior Yellow Mountain, what's up? Ha. Previously I told you that I ordered a fleet of cars for you and Venerable White. Right now, 13 of them have already been sent to a certain underground parking lot near Jiangnan College Town. The rest would be sent in batches within 1 month. In a while, someone will get in touch with you, and you can head over there to accept them anytime. I have already booked the entire parking lot, you can just leave the cars that are not in use parked there, said True Monarch Yellow Mountain in an upbeat voice. Upon hearing this, Song Shuhang's heart skipped a beat. After getting his license, naturally he'd want a good car. Apart from dreaming of speeding freely under the clear blue sky, men also dreamt of this one important thing, a luxury car. No problem, I can go there anytime. True Monarch Yellow Mountain lowered his voice and asked, another thing, is Venerable White next to you? Nope, I am on my way home from school, answered Song Shuhang. That's just the moment to tell you, then. Let me ask you, did you notice that Venerable White's luck had recently gotten better? Asked True Monarch Yellow Mountain in a light voice. Luck, yeah, it seems that Senior White's luck had gotten better recently, nodded Song Shuhang. For example, at the lucky draw outside the electronic shopping center, he easily won a special prize. And that time when he was making a contract with the ghost spirit, a corpse flew from 1,000 miles away, leaving behind a flying sword and an ancient bronze ring. Right now, that flying sword was being used by Venerable White as a means of transportation. Millimeter, it has indeed started. You gotta pay attention to your safety, little friend Shuhang. When Senior White's luck gets better, you have to be more careful, said True Monarch Yellow Mountain. Pay attention to my safety? Why? Asked Song Shuhang doubtfully. Let me give you a simple analogy. If a meteorite came crashing down and landed next to Venerable White, and then he cuts it apart to find a lot of materials useful for cultivators who want to refine some good equipment, this is good luck, right? Asked True Monarch Yellow Mountain. Yeah, nodded Song Shuhang. What if the meteorite almost crushed you, who was next to Venerable White, to death? Or what if you got heavily injured by it? Asked True Monarch Yellow Mountain in a deep voice. Song Shuhang immediately realized, True Monarch, what you mean is, Venerable White's luck is more often than not accompanied by misfortune? That is not the case either. To put it more appropriately, it should be on nothing ventured, nothing gained. As long as you are careful, you can obtain quite a good harvest, True Monarch Yellow Mountain sighed with emotion. All right, I got it, Song Shuhang nodded his head. Is this the reason why the seniors in the chat group are avoiding Senior White? Lastly, there is one more thing. You can consider it advice from a senior's personal experience, said True Monarch Yellow Mountain profoundly. You should chat more with pretty ladies, for example Softfeather, in our 9 Provinces #1 group. Talk to her regularly, keep thinking of her beauty inside that head of yours. Or that fairy Lychee. She recently came back from overseas after beating up an Aboriginal deity that once offended her there. She should be frequently online these days. When you're free, you should get in contact with her more. She likes to take selfies a lot, so you can see a few of her pretty pictures. Look at them more, and think about her beauty more. What? Song Shuhang was very confused upon hearing that. Nothing, just get in contact with pretty ladies more. Listen to your senior, you won't go wrong. True Monarch Yellow Mountain said profoundly once again, okay, that's all for now. I'm hanging up. Beep beep. True Monarch Yellow Mountain had hung up. Song Shuhang held onto his phone, lamenting, that's the thing, I always feel that the seniors in this chat group frequently do not finish saying what they were about to say, leaving me hanging. Why can't they just make things clearer? Dudu, looking down, turned his head around and stared deeply at Song Shuhang. He then silently nodded his head and said, it's nothing, you don't have to listen to stupid Yellow Mountain. That person is too filthy. Song Shuhang. *****. On another side, the Medicine Master's multi-story building. Venerable White leaned against the white wall, striking all kinds of charming poses. Is this okay? Yes, this is the pose. In front of him was a girl in her 20s, wearing a police uniform, holding onto a single-lens reflex camera, discreetly swallowing her saliva. She was the person in charge of handling Venerable White's temporary residence permit, a staff from the sub-district office. After taking 3 shots of Venerable White one after another, she licked her lips and said, give me one last pose, I'll pick the best of the poses when I'm done for your temporary residence permit. Oh, sure. But is it really necessary to take that many pictures for a temporary residence permit? Even though Venerable White was confused by it, he still complied, striking a hand on forehead cool-looking pose. It's necessary. I have to make the most perfect temporary residence permit. The female officer assured him earnestly. She flipped through the pictures in the single-lens reflex camera. There were more than 20 pictures in total. How regretful, she really wanted to take a few more pictures and even longed to capture the man named Song Baya himself in the camera and bring him back with her. He was too handsome. When she gets back, she was definitely going to brag about it to her female colleagues for quite some time. Song Bai, that was Venerable White's current name. Because Venerable White had only a 1-character name, White, it was inconvenient to make an ID. Hence, when Cave Lord Snow Wolf was making identification papers for him, he casually added the last name Song to it. Reluctant to part after taking the last picture, the female officer left her contact details saying, Mr. Song, it would take at most 2 days for us to send you your temporary residence permit. If you need it urgently, you can contact me anytime, I can expedite it for you. Thank you, Senior White smiled at the lady. The female officer blushed, carrying her single-lens reflex camera, her heart beating extremely fast. Ultimately, she begrudgingly glanced at Venerable White for a little longer, unwilling to leave Medicine Master's multi-story building. Venerable White heaved a sigh of relief. Throughout the whole process, he carefully controlled his own aura as to avoid releasing his inborn charm. It was exhausting. After the female officer left, Venerable White went to the small courtyard and took out a huge box. Within it, there were the war trophies that he struggled painfully to amass yesterday and this morning. Apart from the large display color TV, water dispenser, stereo speakers, electric rice cooker, and induction cooker from this morning, there were other things such as a cooker hood, microwave, and soy milk maker. If not for the female officer who came slightly earlier, he could have disassembled a lot more things. Needless to say, after these items were ruined, he had carefully placed illusory copies in their original places. In a short period of time, nobody would be able to notice anything odd about them. Hopefully little friend Shuhang would not notice anything unusual. I should take the chance to get rid of all these things first while Song Shuhang is not back yet. At this time, a young lady with a chubby face had sneakily approached Medicine Master's multi-storied building. She was cautiously trying to break the defensive formation. It was no one else but Penniless Thief Sect's young Mistress Candy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 175, Clues on the Meteor Sword. Chapter 175, Clues on the Meteor Sword. Translator, Godbrandy Editor, Karisu. Speaking of the outstanding disciples of the Penniless Thief Sect, young Mistress Candy had made little to no mistakes since her debut. She had come here to steal the Blood God Crystal and repay the favor she owed to Cultivator Sunflower. For the past few days, she had carefully observed the defensive formation of this multi-storied building. The defensive formation was very complex, and it would be difficult for her to get rid of it in a short amount of time. Today, just as she was wondering how she should deal with it, she noticed that there was a problem with the barrier. Someone had made a huge hole in the defensive formation. An expert had patched it up, but as long as it was a repaired formation, there was the chance that it would still have some flaws. She couldn't let this opportunity slip by. Young Mistress Candy immediately went toward the place where the defensive formation had been damaged and started to search for possible flaws to exploit. At this time, the front door of the multi-storied building opened, and a handsome man arrived in the small courtyard. Young Mistress Candy immediately lay down on the ground and used a magical treasure to turn invisible. Afterward, she carefully looked at the man in the small courtyard through the guardrail. In the courtyard, Venerable White took out the box containing his spoils of war. Then, he randomly broke the branch of a tree nearby and started to engrave formations on it, quickly creating a new disposable flying sword 004. Young Mistress Candy stared dumbfounded through the guardrail. He created a flying sword just like that? Am I dreaming? Moreover, he used an ordinary tree branch as the material. Not even the elders of the Penniless Thief Sect that had become 5th stage spiritual emperors and condensed a golden core could do something like this. She couldn't help but secretly swallow a mouthful of saliva. At this time, Venerable White moved the big box onto the wooden flying sword. Then, he executed a sword art and lightly shouted, "Do your thing." Disposable flying sword 004 took the box with it and gently soared into the sky, disappearing without a trace. Venerable White nodded satisfied. The peeping young Mistress Candy was almost scared half to death. She had never heard of someone controlling the flying sword like that, being able to send it so high into the sky. The sentence "take the enemy's head from 1,000 miles" was already an exaggeration, but didn't the flying sword of this handsome man fly for far more than 1,000 miles? It disappeared without leaving a trace. It didn't directly fly out into the outer space, right? How was this even possible? It won't do. This mission is impossible to complete. In the worst case, she could help Cultivator Sunflower on another occasion and repay the favor she owed that way. It wasn't worth it to risk her life for this task. Young Mistress Candy had made up her mind and was about to get out of there. Fellow deist out there, are you a member of the Penniless Thief Sect? Venerable White turned his head and looked toward young Mistress Candy's position with a light smile. Was I discovered? Impossible. Master found this magical treasure in an ancient ruin. Even a 5th stage Golden Core spiritual emperor wouldn't be able to see through it. Young Mistress Candy was startled. Unless the handsome man was a 6th stage true monarch, or even stronger. But I won't be this unlucky, right? Young Mistress Candy tried to keep a positive mental attitude. Then, she started to slowly creep on the ground like an insect, trying to crawl her way out. It's useless. Your magical treasure can't deceive my eyes, Venerable White lightly said. Young Mistress Candy was depressed. She crawled up and turned off her magical treasure, revealing a bitter expression. She was defeated before even getting into action. Venerable White smiled as he waved his hand. You can enter from the main entrance. There is no formation there. He had been wondering how to go about finding a Penniless Thief Sect's member ever since he emerged from his closed-door cultivation. His life-bound flying sword, Meteor Sword, had been stolen by a member of the Penniless Thief sect while he was cultivating. Technically speaking, he could follow the brand on the flying sword and locate its position, but finding a member of the Penniless Thief sect would get things done much faster. Young Mistress Candy arrived in front of Venerable White and said shyly, "Hello, Senior. If I were to say that I was just passing by, would you believe me?" He, Venerable White heartily laughed. She was a member of the Penniless Thief sect and was squatting down in front of the house. Who would believe that she was just passing by? Speaking of the Penniless Thief sect, he started to recall the things that happened when he had been in meditation. It was quite interesting. While recalling it, Venerable White got distracted. When she heard the senior laugh, young Mistress Candy got anxious. Even if he had no intention to kill her, wouldn't the senior still peel her skin off? However, even after a while, the senior didn't speak. She raised her head and secretly shot a look at Venerable White. Both his eyes were vacant. Was he distracted? An opportunity? Should I run for my life? Young Mistress Candy gritted her teeth and finally decided not to escape. She'd recalled the events from before, when the senior in front of her casually sent a flying sword so high into the sky that it disappeared. Even if she were to run away while he was distracted, wouldn't he just catch up in an instant with his flying sword? Perhaps the senior was just waiting for her to escape and then chase her to chop her up. After pondering for a moment, she decided to stand in place and silently wait. If Song Shuhang were here, he would surely shout, "Miss, run away as fast as you can. Otherwise, you'll die." Luckily, the pondering Venerable White remembered that he had caught a disciple of the Penniless Thief sect. This allowed him to return to his senses. Young Mistress Candy had just avoided a calamity. Venerable White shot a look at this shy disciple of the Penniless Thief sect standing in front of him and asked, "What did you want to steal from this place?" Young Mistress Candy heaved a sigh and replied truthfully, "A treasure called Blood God Crystal." The Blood God Crystal. Venerable White had some impression of the Blood God Crystal. He had heard the fellow Taoists in the group talk about it for the past few days. It seemed that little friend Song Shuhang was preparing to exchange this Blood God Crystal with Palace Master Seven Lives Talisman. If your objective is really the Blood God Crystal, I advise you to forget about it, Venerable White said. There is already a fellow Taoist that is interested in obtaining this Blood God Crystal. If you steal it and anger that fellow Taoist, the entire Penniless Thief sect might be destroyed. Venerable White inadvertently revealed some information about the huge influence behind Palace Master Seven Lives Talisman. The entire Penniless Thief sect might be destroyed? Young Mistress Candy didn't really believe it. The Penniless Thief sect had annoyed many people, but it still existed even after experiencing many storms. How could someone destroy it so easily? I won't say anything else. It's up to you whether you want to believe me or not. However, it's impossible for you to steal the Blood God Crystal regardless, Venerable White said with a smile. Young Mistress Candy felt a bit uncomfortable. Indeed. She didn't even have the chance to steal it. Follow me. I have something to ask you in regards to your Penniless Thief sect. Venerable White waved his hand and went inside the house. Young Mistress Candy obediently followed. After arriving in the living room on the third floor, Venerable White asked, "Amongst your Penniless Thief sect, is there a disciple that discovered a buried place 100 years ago and found a flying sword there?" Buried place? Flying sword? Young Mistress Candy bitterly smiled as she replied, "Senior, can you be more specific?" The members of the Penniless Thief sect had discovered many buried places, and flying swords were a very common find inside these buried places. Discovered a buried place 100 years ago and found a flying sword there. There should be more than 100 such cases. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 176, Fairy Lychee. Chapter 176, Fairy Lychee. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Karisu. The word a meteor was inscripted on that flying sword, answered Venerable White. Meteor sword? Young Mistress Candy suddenly thought of something. Could it be Senior Liu Quenzong's cold flame sword? That was the famous and weird senior of the Penniless Thief sect. You have someone in mind? Tell me more, Venerable White smiled. His smile had some sort of mystical, magical power, causing young Mistress Candy to subconsciously spill every detail she knew. Senior's Cold Flame Sword Liu Chenzong. 100 years ago or so, his nickname was still a God Hand Liu Chenzong. He was an outstanding member of our Penniless Thief sect, and could frequently explore sealed areas that even the elders in the sect could not unravel to search for treasures, recalled young Mistress Candy. She was not that old herself, so most of the things she knew about Senior Liu Chenzong was something she was told by her master. However, 100 years ago, Senior Liu Chenzong found the residence of an ancient cultivator. He spent a lot of time getting through layers of traps before he managed to dig into the residence. According to him, he ultimately gained only a flying sword and a statue. He did think of bringing that statue back to the Penniless Thief sect. But for some reason, he buried the statue back into the ground halfway through his journey, only bringing back the meteor sword back to the sect. After that, once he got back, he went into secluded meditation and frenziedly practiced. He even hardly went to search for treasures anymore. The elders in the sect said that his God Hand ability went to waste. Thereafter, 10 years ago, he suddenly re-emerged and rushed out to make a name for himself. It didn't take him long to make his new name, Cold Flame Sword, resound in the world. It should be something like this, said young Mistress Candy. As for the more private matters of Senior Cold Flame Sword, she did not reveal them. For example, the day Senior's Cold Flame Sword Liu Chenzong went back to the sect, his face was dull and lifeless. Second day onwards, he crazily started to look for women, at least 3 per day, with a maximum of 5 or 6. This continued for almost a year. At that point in time, the elders in the sect thought he was a lost cause. But a year later, he actually went into secluded meditation for about 88 years. When he came out of secluded meditation, he had already become an extremely strong swordsman. Venerable White nodded his head lightly. This Cold Flame Sword Liu Chenzong should be the person who took his meteor sword. Then do you know where the Cold Flame Sword is right now? Asked Venerable White. Upon hearing the question, young Mistress Candy suddenly became clear-headed again. She panically looked at Venerable White, refusing to answer his question. She was worried that Venerable White would harm the senior from her sect. Don't worry, I have no intention to harm any of you, Venerable White said. I just want to retrieve my meteor sword, that's all. Young Mistress Candy still refused to make a single sound. It seemed that Senior Cold Flame Sword Liu Chenzong was going to save another senior from Penniless Thief sect, Daoist Priest Cloudy Mist. Someone used a meteor to suppress him for almost 200 over years. This matter concerned the safety of 2 seniors, so she didn't dare to say any more. You sure are cautious, little girl. It's okay, you can stay at my place for a couple of days first. After a while, I will bring you along to look for meteor sword, smiled Venerable White. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. On the other side, after receiving True Monarch Yellow Mountain's call, Song Shuhang couldn't be more confused. He immediately opened his phone and entered the 9 Provinces #1 group's chat in an attempt to look for some clues. The 9 Provinces #1 group was very lively because it seemed like there was a popular senior who just came back from defeating an aboriginal deity abroad. A few minutes ago, Fairy Lychee sent a in the chat room. The Dao name, Lychee, sounded kinda weird. It came to be because her master decided to give all his disciples a bunch of odd names on a whim. There were also Fairy Nectarine, Daoist Priest Tosca Pear, Daoist Priest Pineapple, Fairy Cherry. They were all fruit names. Compared to a Dao name like Fairy Nectarine, Lychee was already considered quite alright. After being called that for a long time, she became numb to it and pretty much got used. True Monarch Yellow Mountain, welcome back, Lychee. Fairy Lychee, thank you, Senior Yellow Mountain. I finally came back. This trip took some time. That aboriginal deity's main body actually hid very well, within a strange subspace. However, ultimately, I managed to locate it and gave it a taste of 1,000 rumbling thunders, finishing it off. Scholar Drunken Moon, welcome back Tilda. Fairy Lychee, how were your gains from this trip? the next time you hunt for Aboriginal deities abroad, you must remember to invite me along, exclaimed Immortal Master Copper Trigram, who had just been unmuted. The gains are still okay, but recently, the Aboriginal deities are becoming poorer and poorer. I think we should search for those that hadn't been beaten by people for a long time, said Fairy Lychee, and then sent quite a number of pictures. In the picture was an Asian girl with big eyes, a carefree smile, and 2 dimples on her face. A snake or a worm-like body lying on the ground beneath her feet was one type of Aboriginal deity. There were many types of Aboriginal deities, some of them were oddly shaped monster beasts, and others were temple deities. There were also some people who transformed into Aboriginal deities due to using special cultivation techniques. 1. The pictures behind showed her spoils, some quite decent refining materials, as well as pill refining ones. There was also the huge corpse of the Aboriginal deity. Under normal circumstances, cultivators seldom kill Aboriginal deities as they might bear some unnecessary bad karma, which was very troublesome. However, that Aboriginal deity had offended Fairy Lychee so badly that she killed it off directly. Medicine Master, Fairy Lychee is still as beautiful as ever. The words at the end of the sentence became a messy code. Most likely, Rivoli Purple Mist was next to him. One could understand what just happened. By complimenting the looks of another girl in front of Rivoli Purple Mist, Medicine Master was really asking for death. True Monarch Yellow Mountain calmly ignored Medicine Master, and wrote in the group chat, Lychee, if you have the time, you should send more pictures in the chat group. ? Fairy Lychee was puzzled. True Monarch Yellow Mountain quickly changed to private message mode, and messaged Fairy Lychee, well, you know, True Monarch White, now Venerable White, had already come out of secluded meditation, so a fellow Daoist who joined the chat group recently is entertaining him. Ooh. Fairy Lychee replied in understanding Maya *s. Can it be that the new fellow Daoist wants to have my pictures in return for agreeing to entertain Venerable White? At this time, Immortal Master Copper Trigram appeared, ha ha, speaking of Fairy Lychee's pictures, I have here with me a naked picture of Lychee. Skin as white as snow, very dazzling. What? Fairy Lychee was shocked, when did she ever take a nude picture? Let alone with skin as white as snow. Cave Lord Snow Wolf, even though my aesthetic sense of beauty might be different from you human beings, how about you send it and we shall see? Dharma King Creation, I'm interested. Palace Master 7 Lives Talisman, if you wanna show it to us, I don't see a problem with that. Medicine Master, W. Immortal Master Copper Trigram laughed satisfiedly, and sent her a naked picture of Lychee. A fresh bunch of lychee fruit, their outer layer removed, revealing the soft and tender white pulp on the inside, looking fresh and delicious. 1 EDN, so, this is a bit complicated, but apparently, temple deities are ones born in sacrificial, and probably other, temples, just think of them as being born from people's faith. Also, author was pretty vague about all those Aboriginal deities, but generally they're supernatural spirits, which aren't simple spirits anymore, but not yet divinities, hence deities, which are kinda somewhat lower in ranking. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 177, Renovating the Entire House. Chapter 177, Renovating the Entire House. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Karisu. Cave Lord Snow Wolf. Dharma King Creation. Palace Master 7 Lives Talisman. Medicine Master. Is this really Immortal Master Copper Trigram? Thrice Reckless Mad Saber isn't using his ID, right? Asked Scholar Drunken Moon suspiciously. In his memory, even though Immortal Master Copper Trigram calculated black trigrams, he was not the kind to seek death like that. True Monarch Yellow Mountain, hee hee. System notification, Immortal Master Copper Trigram was muted by the founder of the group, True Monarch Yellow Mountain, for 1 day. Ever since Immortal Master Copper Trigram had sent in the group the video of True Monarch Yellow Mountain's reaction after meeting True Monarch White, he was walking further and further on the road of death, without glancing back. If I hadn't personally refined the body tempering liquid, and only read these chat logs, there is no way I would have believed that this was a group of legitimate and outstanding cultivators, Song Shuhang thought. However, come to think of it, True Monarch Yellow Mountain did request Fairy Lychee to send more pretty pictures, and even repeatedly urged him to look more at pretty girls, and think more about beautiful girls. Could it be that True Monarch was afraid that I would be affected by Senior White? Song Shuhang thought to himself. If Senior White's exceptional charm were to be released, nobody would be able to resist it. Just like that time when he confined himself within a statue and subconsciously released his charm, it led to countless young men and women, and even aunts and uncles, getting bewitched, and thus going crazy over him. Ultimately, he even gave start to a huge fight in front of Lin Yao Village's nameless temple. But as of now, Senior White was able to control his charm. As long as he wasn't in daze, he would just be a normal above-average handsome-looking man. Surely there wasn't any problem with that, right? Or maybe True Monarch Yellow Mountain and the rest aren't unaware that Senior White can already control his charm. Right, little friend Shuhang, are you online? This time, Cave Lord Snowwolf suddenly wrote. Song Shuhang hurriedly replied, yes, Senior. I just went online. Ha ha, little friend Shuhang, when are you going to help Senior White with the application for an ATM card? A couple of days ago, Senior White contacted me saying he wanted to change some gold and silver items into usable currency. After you have settled the ATM card for him, I will wire to him a few tens of million RMB to meet his most urgent needs, wrote Cave Lord Snowwolf. Tens of millions, meeting most urgent needs. Song Shuhang suddenly thought of his own 10 million telephone bill. But he still speedily replied, all right, I will make some time and bring Senior White to the bank to apply for an ATM card. Speaking of which, why would Senior White suddenly think of using cash? Was there something he needed to get? Just as Song Shuhang was lost in thoughts, Dudu lightly leapt and landed on the ground. We're home, Dudu called out. Song Shuhang reluctantly got down from Dudu's back and fished for his keys to open the door. Eh? Why isn't the door opening? Song Shuhang felt confused as he was turning his keys, but the main gate would not open no matter how many times he tried. He took a closer look at his keys. It wasn't wrong, it was indeed the key for the main gate. Could it be that the lock is faulty? Song Shuhang lowered his head, staring at the key to the main gate. There seemed to be some marks of someone replacing the lock. Could this be a misconception? But it's okay, Senior White should be at home. Song Shuhang reached out his hand to press the doorbell. Ding ding dang tilde tilde ding ding dang tilde tilde. A melodious doorbell rang. Song Shuhang zoned out for a long time and then asked Dudu, Dudu, if I remember correctly, wasn't the doorbell supposed to sound like ding 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 tilde ding 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 tilde? Dudu rolled his eyes. Ever since I got here, I've never used the doorbell. True, you've never heard the doorbell. Could it be that I had remembered it wrongly? Song Shuhang muttered to himself. Soon, Senior White opened the main gate, greeting them with a smiling face, saying, You're back, little friend Shuhang. Yes, Senior. I think the lock on the main gate is broken, I couldn't open it using my key. I'll call for someone to get it fixed in a while, said Song Shuhang casually. Faulty? Ha 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 tilde all right, Senior White continued to maintain the almost perfect smile on his face. Also, Senior Yellow Mountain called earlier, saying that the cars he ordered have been sent to an underground parking lot near Jiangnan College Town and someone would get in touch with me soon, after which we can make a trip. They're to check and receive the cars. Song Shuhang said while going upstairs. Cars, you mean that vehicle used as means of transportation? All right, I am looking forward to it, said Senior White happily. As they were talking, Song Shuhang passed by the third floor, where Senior White resided in, and saw a guest in the living room. It was a lovely girl with a chubby face, but as of now, her body was stiff, looking very uneasy. Senior White's guest? Asked Song Shuhang. Nah, Venerable White shook his head. It's a member of the Penniless Thief sect. She came here to steal your blood god crystal and I caught her. Also, in a few days' time, I would be bringing her along to look for my meteor sword. Oh, the Deity Keeper sword! 1. Song Shuhang recalled that Senior White mentioned it before, that the sword got stolen by one of Penniless Thief Sect's disciples. Looking at this young cute girl, Song Shuhang pinched his cheeks and said, won't she try to run away? Furthermore, if they left her roaming around the house like that, wouldn't she end up sneaking into his room, stealing the Blood God crystal for real? Why don't we tie her up? Suggested Song Shuhang. Young Mistress Candy laughed hollowly at Song Shuhang. Bastard, she truly intended to make a sneaky escape at first, but now that he said that, it wouldn't be possible anymore. Seeing such a cute and pretty young girl like me, couldn't you have shown some pity or soften your heart? I curse you, be alone your whole life. Bastard! What you said makes sense, Venerable White nodded in approval. Thereafter, young Mistress Candy was trussed up. Additionally, Venerable White added an imprisonment formation, ensuring that she would be unable to escape. 2. Young Mistress Candy stared at Song Shuhang, her eyes filled with hatred. She hated him to his bones even though they've just met. Don't look at me like that, one must always take precautions against a thief. Song Shuhang laughed and grabbed the remote. I'm going to switch on the TV for you to watch some shows or movies, so you won't be too bored. Watching TV? Upon hearing that, Venerable White got a little uncomfortable. Song Shuhang pressed the buttons on the remote, and turned on the switch. Venerable White immediately executed the technique secretly. The TV screen lit up, but it was fuzzy, it appeared to be unable to scan for program information. Eh? Could there be a problem with the data cable? Song Shuhang scratched his head puzzledly and tried pressing a few buttons. At this time, Venerable White secretly used his phone to go online to search for the TV broadcasting network, pressed CCTV, 6th program, and then discreetly activated the technique again. The TV screen lit up once again, and CCTV, 6th program appeared on it. It was currently broadcasting a movie. Oh, we have signal now, smiled Song Shuhang. Venerable White secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Go watch the movie then, said Song Shuhang to young Mistress Candy. Thereafter, he got up and went towards the fridge asking, Senior White, is there anything you wanna eat? A couple of days ago I bought a lot of delicious food at Luoshin Street area. We just have to heat it up in the microwave, then we can eat it immediately. Even though the fridge had been magically modified by Senior White, its cooling function was still pretty decent. Hearing the sound word of microwave, Venerable White touched his forehead with both hands and sighed. If he had known earlier, he would have gone to a different floor to disassemble things. 1. TLN, Song Shuhang keeps mishearing the name of the sword. 2. EDEN, if you're curious, just Google. EDEN, also, there was that part about IMCT and video on the first page, just after the beginning, it's a reference to chapter 109. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 178, Grandpa Tubo's Invitation. Chapter 178, Grandpa Tubo's Invitation. Translator, Godbrandy Editor, Karisu. Maybe I'm imagining things, but didn't the quantity of spiritual chi in the building increase? Song Shuhang thought while moving toward the fridge. And just as he took a few snacks and was planning to heat them up with the microwave oven, Dudu quietly squatted down on a side and looked at him with a playful look in his eyes. Song Shuhang had seen this look several times. Therefore, he was particularly sensitive to it. Is there something wrong with what I'm doing now? He looked at the snacks in his hand and at his attire. It didn't seem that there was anything wrong. Dudu, if you have something to say, just say it, okay? Song Shuhang helplessly said. It's nothing. I'm just very interested in seeing how you're planning to heat up those snacks with this microwave oven. Dudu said with a grin, and making a grin with the appearance of a Pekingese must have been quite the task for him. There's something wrong with the microwave oven? Song Shuhang immediately understood. He stretched his hand toward it. The microwave felt as if made of air. His hand passed right through. It was like an incorporeal object. He, Dudu evilly smiled. Is this Senior White's doing? Song Shuhang asked with a bitter smile. Except for Senior White, there was no one else that could have done it. Then, he immediately thought of something and asked, did the TV also have problems? He. It was really interesting to see you point the remote control toward an empty wall, and you had a very satisfied look too, Dudu said. Senior White's illusory arts weren't too high level, and with Dudu's strength, it was possible to see through them. So, except these two, what other things are like that? Song Shuhang heaved a sigh and asked. Except for that fridge that was changed into a magical treasure, almost all appliances you can see on the third floor are illusions, Dudu said with a smile. In addition, many things on the second floor were disassembled too. However, since he had gained some experience from the third floor, most of them are still in good condition after being reassembled. Dudu laughed. Song Shuhang had finally understood why Senior White needed some cash. He probably wanted to buy a new set of things to replace the current ones that were ruined. Forget it, Song Shuhang decided to put the snacks back into the fridge and acted as if nothing had happened to avoid embarrassing Senior White. Then, he looked at Venerable White and smiled. Senior White, I decided to go out and buy some fresh food. In a while, once we're done checking the cars, we can go to take a stroll in the Luotian Street area. There are many tasty things in this era, Senior, you should try them. Venerable White nodded with a smile. He had heard the whole conversation between Dudu and Song Shuhang in the kitchen. Are tilde so embarrassing? Asterisk. In the place rented by Li Yangde. Tubo was reviewing notes before the exams with a depressed look on his face. Hateful. Whenever someone describes their university life, they always say that they're hanging around cute girls and having fun. And yet, aren't we here suffering like dogs? And struggling with the final tests at the end of every semester? Tubo said as he heaved a sigh. This is because you chose Jiangnan's University. Li Yangde pushed up his glasses and said. If you wanted to graduate from Jiangnan College, you couldn't fail your final tests more than 3 times during the 4 years of university. After failing it once, you had the opportunity to attempt a make-up test twice. If you couldn't pass both times, it would count as a failure. And if you were to fail more than 3 times, you better forget about getting the graduation certificate. But Jiangnan College wasn't even that bad in the end. The university of the neighboring Shen city was the really heartless one. They didn't even give you the opportunity to attempt make-up tests. After failing 3 times, they would give you a free one-way ticket for your hometown. Had I known it earlier, I wouldn't have chosen Jiangnan's University. Tubo had a depressed expression. But even so, why is Jiao Mumu reviewing with a cute girlfriend? And Song Shuhang has our classmate Lu Fei. On the other hand, I'm stuck with this shut-in that can only think of developing programs. Blue veins popped on Li Yangde's forehead. Excuse me for being a program developer shut-in. Do you still want to review the lessons? If you don't, you better return to the dormitory. I was just trying to lighten up the atmosphere with a joke. You shouldn't get angry, Tubo laughed as he continued to review the contents of the lessons. At this time, his phone rang. After taking a look, he discovered that it was a call from his grandfather. Tubo picked up the phone. Hello, Grandpa. Is something the matter? Tubo, do you think that ghosts exist? Tubo's grandfather asked in a serious tone. What? Grandpa, weren't you the one always saying that I should believe in science and not in superstitions? How come you're talking about supernatural stuff now? Tubo asked, somewhat puzzled. I feel as if there is something strange going on lately. Strange things are happening in the village, and I swear I've seen some ghosts too, Tubo's grandfather said somewhat depressed. Tubo was speechless. Grandpa, you have to believe in science. Science is power, don't believe in these superstitions. Weren't these words a bit familiar? This was Grandpa Tubo's signature line, and a month ago, he said these words to Soft Feather too. You goddamn brat. Are you looking for a beating? Tubo's grandfather said angrily. He, Tubo made a hollow laugh. I thought about it a bit, and maybe the classmate you brought over here the last time might be able to do something. You'll soon go on vacation, right? How about bringing them here after the vacation to have some fun? Tubo's grandfather said after going in circles for a bit. After the strange events in the village, he suddenly remembered that young couple that had come to the Luotian village a month ago. And, strangely enough, when he recalled the girl, he couldn't remember what she looked like. He only remembered that she was very beautiful and mysterious. Therefore, he made up his mind and called Tubo. Ha ha, no problem. After the vacation, I'll bring Shu Hang to have some fun at your place. If I pass the final test, I'll come there in 3 days, Tubo said. Good, good. The sooner the better, Grandpa Tubo said happily. Then, he also added, study hard for your exam and don't fail, understood? The last part almost seemed like a threat. Tubo could feel his grandfather's intimidating aura even over the phone. He immediately shivered. After hanging the phone, he frowned a bit. Did something really happen at Grandpa's place? Youngda, do you believe in ghosts? He raised his head and looked at Li Yangda. No. Li Yangda replied without hesitation. But after pausing a moment, he added, however, there might be things in the world that science can't explain yet. After all, there are still many unsolved mysteries. Moreover, you better not think about it too much. Otherwise, the doors of the makeup test will open for you. Don't jinx it. Can't you say something positive? Tubo said somewhat depressed as he picked up the book. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. There was still some time left before lunch. Song Shu Hang was watching the recording about Cultivator Sunflower that Dudu had shot. Cultivator Sunflower came from a branch of the Limitless Demon Sect. Did he hire Altar Master's subordinates to deal with me? Song Shu Hang stopped the video. Moreover, did he entrust that disciple of the thief sect captured by Senior White with stealing the Blood God crystal? From the way he was acting, he didn't seem like a young Master Hai's subordinate. Song Shu Hang recalled the encounter with young Master Hai. If he was really a subordinate of that guy, he would have been more meticulous and cruel. Unlike Cultivator Sunflower, he wouldn't have gone into action on a whim and without a proper plan. But if he wasn't young Master Hai's subordinate, from whom was he taking orders? Did it mean that he saw the possibility of obtaining an advantage and went into action? It was better to ask the prisoner downstairs. Song Shu Hang returned downstairs and arrived in front of the tightly tied-up disciple of the penniless thief sect lying on the sofa. When she saw Song Shu Hang, young Mistress Candy puffed her cheeks and coldly snorted, turning the head the other way. What is the relationship between you and Cultivator Sunflower? Song Shu Hang went directly to the point. Which Cultivator Sunflower? I don't know anyone with that name. Young Mistress Candy was a loyal person. However, she had a bad premonition. These guys already knew about Cultivator Sunflower. He's the disciple of the Limitless Demon Sect that sent you here to steal the Blood God crystal, Song Shu Hang said indifferently. Young Mistress Candy's pupils shrank a bit as she said, it was just a mission. There is no special relationship between the two of us. Song Shu Hang stretched out his hand and revealed a talisman. If he was just a client and there wasn't any special relationship between the two of you, you don't really need to cover for him. Tell me about him. What is his status inside his branch, and from whom was he taking orders? Song Shu Hang narrowed his eyes and asked. This talisman was Cultivator Sunflower's little darling, and it allowed him to use his green breeze speed boost. Since it was now in Song Shu Hang's hands, it meant that Cultivator Sunflower had met a tragic end. I really don't know anything, young Mistress Candy bitterly smiled as she shook her head. She only owed him a favor and knew that he was part of a branch of the Limitless Demon Sect. She didn't know anything else. Song Shu Hang frowned. He wasn't satisfied with this answer. People like you that refuse to tell the truth are really troublesome. He didn't have any skills to extort a confession. Should he learn some for the next time? Oi, oi. I just told you everything I knew. Young Mistress Candy got anxious. Song Shu Hang looked at young Mistress Candy with a funny expression. Do you really think that I would believe you? At this time, Dudu entered the fray. I'm here, I'm here. I'm very good at extorting confessions. He was very bored and was desperately trying to look for something fun. All right, but don't kill her. Senior White seems to have some use for her. Once he's done, and if she still refuses to open her mouth, you can eat her, Song Shuhang said in a very serious tone. He was purposely trying to make Dudu look fearful and scare this disciple of the penniless thief sect. Dudu also coordinated and made a very scary grinning expression. However, he was still in the form of a small Pekingese. Therefore, he only looked cute. Song Shuhang heaved a sigh. He needed to find from which branch Cultivator Sunflower was from. Senior 7 was currently turning upside down the branches of the limitless demon sect. If he could find the branch Cultivator Sunflower belonged to and give that information to Senior 7, he would certainly be very happy. Tilda. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 179, Even Today I Managed to Survive. Chapter 179, Even Today I Managed to Survive. Translator, Godbrandy Editor, Karisu. Afternoon, around 12 p.m. Song Shuhang received a call from True Monarch Yellow Mountain's agent. He would deliver all the cars to that underground parking area nearby Jiangnan College Town instead of True Monarch Yellow Mountain. After asking whether he was home or not, the agent quickly rushed to his place. He was very courteous. With enough money, you could not only make the devil turn the grindstone, you could even make the grindstone turn the devil. Afterward, the agent drove Song Shuhang and Senior White to the underground parking area. This time, Dudu wasn't interested in going out with Shuhang. Therefore, he decided to stay home and look after the house. In addition, Penniless Thief Sect's young mistress Candy was still there. If he was bored, he could use all different kinds of tortures on her to have fun. Song Shuhang boarded the car while carefully watching Senior White. He was afraid he would suddenly start disassembling the car on a whim. Senior White always felt uncomfortable when Shuhang was staring at him with that gaze. No need to look at me like that. I won't start disassembling the car. Believe me. Song Shuhang scratched his head in embarrassment. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Nothing unusual happened during the journey. After arriving at the underground parking area, the agent gave the keys to Song Shuhang. True Monarch Yellow Mountain had booked the entire parking area. There was enough space to park at least 50 cars here, and Yellow Mountain was planning to fill it up completely. Mr. Song Shuhang, please confirm the condition of this first batch of 13 cars. Each of them was filled up and properly checked before being brought here. This is the detailed list of the models and contracts provided by Mr. Huang Wenzhong. Please confirm everything, and if there are no problems, sign here. Afterward, I'll send a message to Mr. Huang Wenzhong, the agent said with a smiling face. Huang Wenzhong was True Monarch Yellow Mountain's modern alias. There were 13 cars, and every one of them was a different model. Some of them were worth millions and others just hundreds of thousands of RMB. Anyway, the agent had no idea why had this young man ordered so many different cars. After all, he couldn't understand the mentality of these rich people. Not that it mattered. If you had money, you could spend it as you wished. Moreover, why would he care if these rich people wanted to buy a ton of cars or a mere man-powered tricycle? As long as he was getting his cut, he would bring them the best tricycle he could find. If there is a problem with the cars, feel free to contact me. I'll try to solve it as soon as possible, the agent patted his chest as he said. Song Shuhang took the contract and compared the information with the cars in the parking lot. After checking that everything was okay, he nodded and signed the contract. After signing the contract, he realized something. Holy, these cars are now mine. True Monarch Yellow Mountain had put them under his name. Later, I won't be investigated for assets of unknown origin, right? Song Shuhang thought sarcastically. Of course, with True Monarch Yellow Mountain behind the scenes, it was impossible for something like this to happen. After Song Shuhang signed the contract, the agent gave him the keys to the cars and reminded these are the keys to this batch of cars. According to Mr. Huang, after all cars are delivered, Mr. Song Shuhang himself will be in charge of the security. Is that all right? Yes, we'll take care of the security ourselves, Senior White replied. He was getting restless and wanted to get into action as soon as possible. Good. When the other batch arrives, I'll contact Mr. Song Shuhang again. The agent was very polite and deserved a perfect rating of 5/7. 1. After settling things, he bid farewell to Song Shuhang and Venerable White, taking his leave. He also needed to discuss the details with Mr. Huang Wenzhong. ******. Senior White, I'll drive first and show you around. By the way, how are your driving skills? Song Shuhang asked. Don't worry about that. I've downloaded a basic manual about traffic rules and driving tricks from the internet earlier. Moreover, I even have a driving license. There won't be any problem, Senior White said with a smile. Song Shuhang. Senior, that driving license came from Cave Lord Snow Wolf, and who knows how he even got it. After getting into the car, he started to explain things to Senior White. If you insert the key here and turn it, the car will start. However, this car is rather old-fashioned. Nowadays, you don't even need to insert the key to start it, but let's leave this discussion for another time. Song Shuhang chose this car because it was similar to the one he had used with the instructor. After all, he had also just got his driving license. Then, he told Senior White how to use the steering wheel, the brakes, the accelerator, the clutch, and so on. Senior White earnestly listened the whole time. After getting out the parking area, Song Shuhang used his keys to lock the main gate. Afterward, he brought Senior White along for a drive, and headed toward the Shueisha Road. This road had been just built, and since it was in a remote area, there were few cars and pedestrians here. It was very suitable for someone that had just started to drive. Senior White, what do you think? Song Shuhang stopped the car and pulled up the handbrake as he asked. It is a very simple vehicle. I should be able to learn it easily. Senior White nodded and said, however, your speed was just too slow. You didn't get past 30 or 40 kilometers per hour. I just recently got my license. Song Shuhang made a hollow laugh. This was his first time driving without the instructor. Senior White was getting impatient. Let's trade seats. Then, Song Shuhang and Senior White changed their seats. Senior White copied Shuhang's actions and started driving. This basic stuff couldn't baffle him. After all, with his strength and skills, even if he made a mistake, he could react in a split second and bring the situation back under control. He started to move and gradually accelerated. He skillfully turned the car and changed lanes. After seeing it only once, Venerable White had already learned how to drive. It's pretty easy. What should we do now? Venerable White asked. Senior, it's up to you, Song Shuhang replied. Very well. Sit tight then. Senior White pressed the accelerator, and the car quickly sped up. Song Shuhang quickly said, Senior White, pay attention to the speed limit. Don't worry. I'm paying attention to it. I've already memorized all the traffic rules. Moreover, even if they withdraw the driving license, it's not a big deal. We can just have Cave Lord Snow Wolf deliver another one, Senior White said full of confidence. After hearing the first half, Song Shuhang was relieved. But after hearing the second half, he got scared half to death. Luckily, Senior White didn't do anything strange while on the road and didn't break any rules either. After driving for a while, Venerable White suddenly found a place to stop the car and stopped there. Afterward, he squatted down on a side and started to draw something. Senior, what are you doing? Song Shuhang asked curiously. I'm engraving 3 formations on it, invisibility formation, soundproof formation, and a formation to avoid detection, the aura concealing formation. Once I'm done, our car will become invisible and won't be detected by other people, Venerable White replied. And what need is there for it? Song Shuhang thoughtlessly said. Then, he thought of something. Senior, is it because you want to drive at full speed? He. This speed is just too slow. I can't get used to it. Venerable White clapped his hands. Done. Then, he got in the car and started it again. At this point, he pressed down the accelerator. Vroom. The car's engine roared as it sped forward. It quickly surpassed 100 kilometers per hour. The speed kept increasing until the speedometer almost exploded. Song Shuhang's face whitened. It won't do. It's still too slow. On the other hand, Venerable White was still disappointed. Then, he saw the pendant hanging on Song Shuhang's wrist. It was the magical treasure left behind by Cultivator Sunflower. Song Shuhang already had that spirit-binding ice beader hanging around his neck. Therefore, he decided to put this pendant on his wrist. He. Venerable White stretched his hand and gently tapped on the pendant hanging on Song Shuhang's wrist. Green breeze speed boost. The pendant had been activated. Venerable White had used the effects of its skill on the car. In the next instant, Song Shuhang felt the car break through its limits. The surrounding scenery quickly started to blur. Venerable White was elegantly steering the car and skillfully driving, surpassing one car after another. Asterisk. What's that thing ahead? While driving, Venerable White suddenly noticed that there was a checkpoint ahead and many cars were lining up there. That's the entrance of the highway. We need to stop and pay the fee, Song Shuhang said. We can't. We're invisible now. With that, Venerable White gently patted the car with his right hand, leaping technique. Then, the car suddenly soared into the sky, and after leaping over the cars waiting to pay the fee, it directly descended onto the highway. Woo! Here I can go even faster. Venerable White madly laughed. Song Shuhang leaned against his seat and heard a strange sound as if the car was on the verge of breaking down. The race continued. Asterisk. After 5 minutes. Ha. Faster. Who? Senior White's laughter suddenly stopped. Did something happen? Song Shuhang turned his head and asked. Then, he saw Senior White holding the steering wheel. It would be a very normal thing if not for the fact that Senior White's upper body was turned toward Song Shuhang and the steering wheel was still in hands. This meant that the steering wheel wasn't attached to the car anymore. Venerable White looked at Song Shuhang with an innocent expression and said, I was too excited just now. I used too much force and broke the steering wheel. The brakes, quickly press the brake. Song Shuhang yelled. Ha. About that, it seems we were going too fast before. The brakes failed a long time ago. Ha. Venerable White made a hollow laugh. This situation was quite embarrassing. We're going to crash. Song Shuhang pointed toward the guardrail ahead. Don't worry. Look at me, leaping technique. Venerable White gently shouted. Senior, this is not what I meant. There is a cliff ahead. Song Shuhang yelled once again. But it was too late. The car soared into the sky and fell from the cliff. It was truly a beautiful sight. Asterisk. 5 minutes later. Song Shuhang got out of what had remained of the car. He was still in a daze. He rubbed his face. After falling from that height, he hadn't been injured? Did Senior White protect him? But where was Senior White? He looked around and discovered that Senior White was digging something in the bamboo forest under the cliff. Ha. Not bad. I found 2 bamboo shoots. The one who sees it keeps it. Little friend Song Shuhang, you can take one. This thing can clear your nose and enhance your sense of smell. Once you eat it, it will be very useful for someone like you who is trying to open their nose aperture. Venerable White threw a purple bamboo shoot toward Song Shuhang. Song Shuhang caught the precious object and stood there dumbfounded. Is this the effect of Senior White's strange luck? Asterisk. At this time, inside the 9 Provinces No. 1 group. True Monarch Yellow Mountain, little friend Song Shuhang, I've heard that you wanted to learn how to pilot a plane. Since Northern River isn't around, I'll personally make arrangements for you. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 180, Branch Leader Jing Mo's Trump Card. Chapter 180, Branch Leader Jing Mo's Trump Card. Translator, Stardew 5T Editor, Karisu. When True Monarch Yellow Mountain sent this message, Song Shuhang hopped onto Senior White's flying sword and they were going to use it to get home. After the car crashed, Senior White dug a deep hole in the ground and prepared to bury the car in it. Next, he used the ground leveling spell to cover up the hole, reverting the ground to its original state, without any marks or signs of anyone digging there. He had used this spell countless times before, hence he was very well versed at it. Thereafter, Senior White activated the blue flying sword, and they started their travel home. On their way back, Song Shuhang took out his phone and entered the 9 Provinces #1 group chat to take a look, and learned about True Monarch Yellow Mountain's idea for him to learn how to fly a plane. Song Shuhang was immediately covered in sweat, his hair standing on ends. He quickly, but sneakily, turned his body to block his phone in order to prevent Senior White from seeing the message. You gotta be kidding me? When Senior White learned how to drive, he sharply increased the speed of the car through magical arts and we ended up falling off a cliff, completely destroying the car. If we allow Senior White to operate a plane, won't we end up flying to space? By then, the airplane would become a crashed plane. No, this won't do. I definitely must not allow Senior White a chance to come in contact with an airplane. I should reject Senior Yellow Mountain first. After all, learning how to fly a plane right now would be too dangerous. Song Shuhang made up his mind and was preparing to send a private message to True Monarch Yellow Mountain to reject him. But at this time, in the 9 Provinces #1 group, someone with the ID Venerable White suddenly sent a message, "Hey? Yellow Mountain, you can send someone directly for flying classes? When are you gonna arrange it? I'll go together with little friend Shuhang to take the classes. I just learned how to drive today, it was really interesting." Come to think of it, learning how to fly a plane would be much more interesting in comparison. Seeing this, Song Shuhang felt like fainting on the spot. He turned his head and realized that while Senior White was operating the flying sword, he was also using his phone. It is forbidden to use a phone when driving. Are you sure you should be using your phone while flying on a sword, Senior? Senior White seemed to have felt Song Shuhang staring at him, hence he raised his head and made eye contact with Song Shuhang. Then, as though he knew what the other was thinking, he said, "Ha ha, don't worry. I set the destination as Medicine Master's multi-storied building. The flying sword will automatically bring us there, just like a self-driving car. I just have to be a little careful, making sure that we don't bump into any flying objects during the journey, and that will do." Senior White's words put Song Shuhang's heart at ease. Flying swords actually had an autopilot function. Modern people thought it a recent invention, but in fact, it had already been used so many times by cultivators that it was considered as something ordinary. But suddenly, Song Shuhang started to panic. "I just have to be a little careful, making sure that we don't bump into any flying objects during the journey, and that will do." Based on Senior White's personality, it wouldn't be surprising at all for him to fall into a daze and end up bumping into flying objects like planes or UFOs and such. He could only pray and hope with all his heart that such a disaster would not happen. "Oh right, Shuhang, earlier in the group chat, Yellow Mountain mentioned arranging lessons for you to learn how to fly a plane. When are you free? Let's go together," Senior White said eagerly. "Ha ha, actually, I just saw the message from Senior Yellow Mountain as well. But these couple of days I'd be having my final exams. After they end, I'll have to prepare to make a trip to the neighboring town, Luoxin Street area," replied Song Shuhang calmly and firmly. Since he could not avoid it, then he shall just delay it as long as possible, until he had sufficiently prepared himself mentally. He would accompany Senior White to take the flying classes then. Or rather, learn how to wreck a plane. "Neighboring town, is there anything you need to do?" asked Senior White out of curiosity. Song Shuhang said, I need to look for a group of people, the underlings of Zoltar Master who tried to steal my things the last time. This time, when Limitless Demon Sects to Cultivator Sunflower tried to steal the Blood God Crystal, he hired them. Since Cultivator Sunflower cooperated with them, you'd never know if they know a thing or two about his origins. If they know which branch in the Limitless Demon Sect he was from, then that would be great. If I could get hold of the address of the branch Cultivator Sunflower was in, I would be able to send the information to Senior 7 and raise that branch to the ground. All right then. Let's take flying classes next time then. No worries, we're not in a rush, Senior White smiled. After all, there are still so many cars in the garage for us to play with for a long time. Ha ha, Senior, as long as you are happy. The cold sweat on his forehead became a waterfall. Was Senior White planning to wipe out a garage full of cars? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Approximately 3 minutes later, within the instant messaging program, True Monarch Yellow Mountain secretly sent a private message to Song Shuhang. Little friend Shuhang, did you bring Senior White out for driving lessons today? Yep, replied Song Shuhang. Was it safe? Asked True Monarch Yellow Mountain. The question was short and snappy, straight to the point. Senior Yellow Mountain, I can only say, I survived. Song Shuhang said emotionally. Did you know? Senior White added 3 formations to the car: invisibility formation, soundproof formation, and aura concealing to avoid being detected. Lastly, he even added the green breeze speed boost dot. The corners of True Monarch Yellow Mountain's mouth twitched. In the end, the steering wheel broke and the brakes stopped working. We went off a cliff, but luckily, I received a purple bamboo shoot, which clears one's nose and enhances one's sense of smell, very useful for opening the nose aperture. Hee 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 hee. After that sentence came a string of hee hee laughs. Song Shuhang wasn't sure what those hee hees were supposed to mean, but if he didn't add them, he would have felt very uneasy. True Monarch Yellow Mountain. Hang in there. After a while, True Monarch continued, after this mission is completed, Venerable White will give you a reward. Also, a few of us in the group had discussed it before as well. Once you complete the mission, we would also reward you. I guarantee that you'd be satisfied. After all, Venerable White's strength and abilities had increased, and so did his destructive powers. Hence, the difficulty level of the mission had also correspondingly increased. A compensation was pretty much necessary. Song Shuhang hurriedly replied, I was waiting for you to say that, Senior Yellow Mountain. Also, when you're free, bring Venerable White along for flying classes. Then, True Monarch Yellow Mountain advised, everything else aside, if you take flying lessons with Venerable White, it would definitely increase your safety. Think about it, if anything happens on the plane, if you're alone, you would be dead. But if you learn piloting with him, at least he will be able to use the flying sword to safely escort you back. Am I right? True Monarch Yellow Mountain's words sure made sense. Song Shuhang felt that he couldn't reject the idea of bringing Senior White along. It was true, at least when things went wrong on the plane, Senior White could bring him to safety with his flying sword. If he thought of it that way, it didn't seem like a bad idea to take flying lessons with Senior White after all. When I'm done with my final exams and settling a personal matter, I will take flying classes together with Senior White, replied Song Shuhang. After that, he looked enviously at the flying sword beneath his feet. Being able to operate a flying sword was such a good thing, it was a pity that one had to be in the 4th stage realm in order to be able to do it. At least for now, this is my biggest goal, to step on the flying sword and soar right up into the skies. How cool is that? Oh, right, when I have my own flying sword, I definitely must make it slightly bigger and add a guardrail, that way it would be much safer. Song Shuhang thought to himself. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. At the same time, at the Limitless Demon Sect's headquarters. After branch leader Jingmo dealt with Mahoraga Peak's trivial matters, he got on his flying saber and departed towards Jiangnan at high speed. On his way, he contacted Manager Chen from his branch. Manager Chen, how is it going with your investigation on Stressed by a Mountain of Books? Asked branch leader Jingmo in a deep voice, his spiky silver hair fluttering in the wind. Branch leader, a few days ago, we arranged for Cultivator Sunflower, whose position was the closest to the target, to investigate stressed by a mountain of books. But today, we suddenly lost contact with him. I'm afraid something might have happened and he may be met with a calamity. I've sent an additional group to investigate the target. They should have almost arrived at the location near Jiangnan College Town by now. At least they would be able to find out if and why Cultivator Sunflower was killed before making any decisions, Manager Chen carefully answered, afraid that if he accidentally made a mistake in his reply, it might infuriate branch leader Jing Mo. After listening to this, a ray of lightning flashed through his eyes with a booming sound. He was deep in thoughts as he said, I somewhat have an impression of that Cultivator Sunflower. If it was really him, he would have proceeded with caution. That stressed by a mountain of books is nothing but a newbie who just opened his heart aperture. He definitely wouldn't have been good enough to be his opponent. If Cultivator Sunflower really got finished off, it just means that there was an expert next to stressed by a mountain of books. While they were talking, the underling next to Manager Chen passed him a document which Cultivator Sunflower sent to the branch before his death with much difficulty via several middlemen. Manager Chen opened it. It was the information report on stressed by a mountain of books, coupled with that on the formidable expert next to him. Branch leader, we just received the information report sent by Cultivator Sunflower a day ago. There is indeed an expert next to that stressed by a mountain of books. He is a formidable cultivator who can create a crater of 30 meters in diameter just by accidentally falling onto the ground, Manager Chen promptly reported. A crater 30 meters in diameter, could it be that he is a 5th stage Golden Core spiritual emperor like Su Clan 7? Branch leader Jing Mo pondered for a moment and replied, you guys think of a way to lock onto stressed by a mountain of books and that expert's positions, wait for my return from the branch and then we will go to meet stressed by a mountain of books and that senior. Branch leader Jing Mo's tone was full of confidence. He secretly held the protective talisman hanging on his chest between his fingers. Due to the fact that recently Su Clan 7 had been aggressively attacking the different branches of Limitless Demon Sect, he requested his master to give him a protective talisman before he returned to the branch. This was a blood evasion technique protective talisman. Once it was used, not to mention a 5th stage Golden Core Spirit Emperor, even a 6th stage True Monarch wouldn't be able to lay a finger on him. Even if he bumped into Su Clan 7, he would still be able to protect his life. With the protective talisman, he could discreetly close in and observe the expert next to that stressed by a mountain of books. If the expert next to the stressed by a mountain of books was a 4th stage cultivator, he was confident that he would not lose to him. Seizing the blood god crystals by force would not be a problem. If that cultivator was a 5th stage Golden Core expert or stronger, then he would swiftly run for his life. If the other party could sense him and therefore make his move first, at least the protective talisman could protect his life. After all, the senior next to that stressed by a mountain of books couldn't be a 7th stage venerable, right? Of course, if he could meet Song Shuhang one-on-one, it would be so much better. He would be able to avoid a direct confrontation with that expert cultivator and save a lot of energy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible.